$75 credit to boost your job post, which means more quality candidates will see it fast. Get started on Indeed.com/Fox. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
It's official. President-elect Biden has nominated former South Bend mayor and former presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg for transportation secretary.
Thank you so much for entrusting me with this opportunity to serve the American people. I am humbled by your confidence, eager to do everything in my power to ensure that this administration succeeds.
Buttigieg said when he was mayor, infrastructure was at the heart of his vision. One of the men accused in the plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer should be extradited to Michigan. That's the ruling from a judge. But the judge has also ruled Brian Higgins should be given a chance to appeal first. The Wisconsin man is charged with material support of an act of terrorism. His lawyer had argued he should not be extradited because Governor Whitmer, as the victim, has a conflict of interest. In all, 14 men were charged in the plot. Officials say they plan to storm the state capitol and kidnap Whitmer and other state officials. Retail sales declined more than expected last month.
Americans cut back on shopping last month. Retail.
You can't win if you don't enter, and you actually can improve your chances of winning a prize drawing if you wrinkle up your entry blank. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com, and I speak from experience. Why this works: if they'll be spinning the drum before drawing, your entry blank will move around more than, and not adhere to, other perfectly flat entry blanks. And if they don't spin the drum and merely reach into a box full of other perfectly flat entry blanks, many of which are sticking together, yours will feel different to the person reaching in. When you win, act surprised. And if you're looking for work, this is a metaphor. For more tips on sticking out in a world where just too much blends into the blah, 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 hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
It seems like we're constantly hearing different fitness advice. Exercise 2 to 3 times a week for at least 30 minutes a day. And don't forget cardio. But don't exercise too much or you'll get hurt. So, how much exercise should you be getting? Well, actually not that much, since the human body is only built to withstand walking a short distance before lying or sitting down again. In fact, a group of biologists from Stanford found that walking more than 5 feet at a time can cause joint pain, fatigue, and even extreme hunger. The study concluded that the maximum effort the human body can safely endure is reaching for an item high on a shelf. Our bodies simply aren't built to stand up and move around. So maybe those high-intensity spin classes and daily jogs aren't such a good idea. Instead of walking up the stairs every day, try taking the elevator whenever possible. You can even use a fitness tracker to let you know when you've been exerting too much energy. Your body will appreciate it. For The Onion, I'm Jill Hooper.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. Welcome to another episode of this program where you can take control of the airwaves should you wish. You can bring up absolutely anything that you want. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Arya.
Well, it's a big day for Bitcoin.
Man, it is. I woke up and just started smiling.
Yep, it was one of the first things I found out when I woke up today, too. That was that at the time I woke up, which was about 10:30 Eastern this morning, it was over $20,000. I think it was like $20,500. So it smashed through its previous all-time high. Because the last time it was like, what, a week ago, I think, when
I said I wasn't going to call it an all-time high until 20,000. Well, we're definitely at an all-time high now.
Right. That was what I was going to bring up, was that you weren't sure last time. And indeed, some media said it depended on like a week ago when it looked like it had hit an all-time high. It was an all-time high at some exchanges, but not at other exchanges. So it was like just barely kind of scraping the previous all-time high, which was set into late December, early January of 2017, 2018. So that was when the last one was. And so it came real close a week ago, and now it's just blown right on through that. It's gone up 10% basically in the last 24 hours.
I'm still not 100% convinced, though, because I talked to someone today who also remembers when Bitcoin hit like 22,500 back in 2017, 2018.
No.
So I'm not. I
mean, unless it was on.
I'm saying
it was
this was just
probably
like the Coinami app or something like that, because back then I was just using that and maybe Coinbase.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been like $22,000 on a vending machine or something, which is still a legitimate price of Bitcoin at that time. But right now, if you go to the vending machines, it'll be 24,000 or 23,000 or something like that. So, I
just remember seeing somewhere in some mainstream exchange that it was 22,000, maybe even 23,000. I thought I was crazy because no one else remembered it. So I was like, okay, well, I'm incorrect. But someone else I spoke with today remembered the same thing. So still, I said 20,000. This is an all-time high. I'm taking it.
There are some exchanges where, let's see. So there was like this Korean exchange that only allows Korean won in, and like it's hard to get money in and out of the, or like I forget whether it's hard to get money into the exchange or out of the exchange, but there's certain exchanges where it's kind of hard to deal with. They've got higher prices at those exchanges.
Yeah, because that's worth it being difficult to deal with, right?
Well, for whatever reason, I forget what the actual reason was, but there's certain like fluke exchanges out there. And you really can't take those under advisement when you're looking at the price of a thing. Probably the best bet for a price of Bitcoin is bitcoinaverage.com, because what they do is they take a bunch of different exchanges and they average the price together from those exchanges to get the Bitcoin average price. And even they exclude certain exchanges from their calculation. And the reason, as I understand it, for that is because, again, some exchanges are kind of wacky. They don't have the right, they're not honest with their volumes, for instance, or whatever. And so there's certain exchanges that are sort of like questionable as to how the veracity of their claims. So they take some of the major exchanges and they average them together. And that's, I would say that's probably the fairest price. Although if our co-host Nobody were here, he would argue that the exchange prices are below what the actual market price for Bitcoin is. And the evidence for that...
Well, it is for some people.
Right.
But on average, I think the average Bitcoin price is evidently what it should be at this exact moment.
But the point that he would make about this is that the exchanges are a very exclusive kind of place, meaning if you don't pass their know your customer requirements, if you don't have an ID, if you don't have, banking history or whatever, you can't get in to one of these exchanges. So, yeah, there is a lot of volume on the exchanges. There's certainly a lot of trades being made there, and I don't think that that should be discarded necessarily. But ultimately, exchange prices are sort of the equivalent of like a spot price for gold, whereas the reality of buying gold is you cannot get gold for spot, right? You on the streets going into a gold store or talking to somebody, unless they're desperate, right? Unless that person needs to sell that piece of gold as quickly as possible, there's no way you're going to get that gold at the spot price. Even if you go on, larger dealers and try to order large amounts of gold, you can't even get close to spot. Now, obviously, you can get the exchange price if you go on the exchange, but his point is the real market price for Bitcoin is higher than the exchange prices. The real world price for Bitcoin. You go to any of these Bitcoin vending machines, you're going to pay more than 10%. If you deal with somebody on like a local Bitcoins, you might be paying between 5 and 10+% for something like that. So
I don't know that it fully holds water though, because I can go to Kraken or Binance or one of these places,
but other people
get
can't.
It for spot.
You can, but other people can't.
Well, that's why I don't sell it at spot.
Correct. So the point that he would make is the fact that there's another market for Bitcoin. There's the real world market of people who are paying cash in person. That's a completely different price than these trading markets where only know your customer people are allowed to play. Okay. So it's sort of like there's two tiers. There's sort of like the elite, we're obedient to the government, we'll show our ID tier, and then there's the tier.
I don't know how true that part is.
Well, you showed an ID to get on exchange. So
because it benefits me in the long run, and it allows people to buy Bitcoin without jumping through those hoops.
No doubt. I mean, I'm not criticizing you for it. I do the same thing. I mean, I'll do what it takes to get money out of the government system and into the cryptocurrency world. That's ultimately one of the main goals of doing what we do, which is to help people on the outside of that system. There's a lot of those people who they don't, for whatever reason, they don't want to join the exchange. Maybe it's because they value their privacy more than we do, and they're willing to pay for that privacy. They're willing to pay a premium for it. So, what's the real market price of Bitcoin? The answer is it depends on the market.
Sure.
Right? So, anyway, the kudos to Bitcoin, which since I've woken up,
everything else is up as well. Monero, Dash, Bitcoin Cash.
Since I've woken up, it has gone up like another $1,000.
Yeah.
So
it's fully over 21,000 now.
Yeah, it went up over about 10% in the last 24 hours. It's sitting at currently right about $21,290, and it peaked today at 21,500 and change.
Yeah.
So
wonderful day.
Yeah, what a day. And there's other potential good news.
As you pointed out, it's been a great Christmas. The federal government got hacked.
Yesterday, we talked about that, yeah.
And then today, Bitcoin is up to 21,000. What wonderful news will tomorrow bring?
Yes, indeed. Well, maybe, and it's hard to get optimistic about this, but I have to say I'm surprised to see this news story coming out from the dailybeast.com. And this appears to have been picked up in a few other places, including Yahoo News.
Yahoo was the one that I saw.
Yeah, and I've seen it on a couple other spots, but the Daily Beast claiming they've got the exclusive on this. Asawin Subaseng, the White House reporter, and Adam Ronsley reporting here in his final weeks in office before Joe Biden's inauguration. President Donald Trump is weighing granting clemency to Ross Ulbricht, the founder and former administrator of the world's most famous darknet drug market, the Silk Road, according to the Daily Beast.
Now, explain this to me. What's the difference between granting clemency, commuting a sentence, and pardoning?
Clemency and commutation, I believe, are the same thing.
Okay.
And a pardon would be that if Trump grants clemency, then that essentially says, okay, Ross, you've served your time. We're shortening your sentence. You're released immediately, or in the next 2 days, or whenever it is that the release date is. So it would be Trump reducing his sentence down to essentially time served.
Okay.
The pardoning would wipe his slate completely clean of the conviction. So
I would take a clemency.
Yeah.
I would prefer a pardon. But,
yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, the thing is, with a clemency or with a pardon, you don't get your time back.
Right.
So it just wipes your record clear, and that's nice. But in this case, I think Ross would be happy if he could just
I think he'd be thrilled.
Get out of prison, where he has been sentenced, and I'm sure it mentions this in the story here, but he's been sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years for the dastardly crime of programming a website.
It's absolutely barbaric, the sentence that was handed down.
It's horrifying. We'll talk about it. I can't believe that Trump actually is considering this. I never thought I would see this particular story.
And this isn't just a random tweet that like the Julian Assange one was. This is an actual White House insider saying that, hey, Trump is considering this.
Yeah, and it would be better if it was actually a Trump tweet, because then we'd know for sure he's considering it, as opposed to just somebody saying on a condition of anonymity. More coming up here. It's Free Talk Live.
Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find a cornucopia of information, neatly organized for your needs. If you're a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com, where you can get the latest headlines. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. All put together by the best minds in the business to teach you about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com. Divi's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divi's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to diviproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from diviproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. diviproject.org. D-I-V-I project.org.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com. Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive, and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by DJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com. Free Talk Live.
I have a license. That means you're protected. That's nonsense. Just because somebody has a license doesn't mean anything about their business acumen. It doesn't mean anything about their ability to satisfy their customers.
It essentially means that they paid the state money.
And jumped through
the
hoops. Yep.
And filled out some paperwork.
Exactly. And that's all that the license means. But yet it has this aura of legitimacy to it. Oh, it's a license. And they paid some money to the state, and so therefore they must be a good company. It's absurd.
And absolutely. And what it does is it depletes the pool of people out there that would be doing business in that particular way. They just can't get up the money to get the license. They can't get up the money to get the fancy vans and all that other stuff that's involved in being a contractor or whatever. I'm thinking of plumbers right now, I guess. And different plumbing jobs require different levels of skill. When you're talking about just a regular thing, why can't you have a handyman guy come in and do it? Why does he have to be licensed?
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Do you love Twitter? Make sure you favorite the LRN.FM Twitter account so you can receive our tweets at twitter.lrn.fm. That's twitter.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You bring up whatever you want. If you want, you can join us. The toll-free number is 855-450, free like freedom. Here in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Aria.
And we're talking about the potential end of the road for Ross Ulbricht as far as his
the beginning
prison
of the
sentence.
road for him.
Beginning
the end
of a new
his
road.
Prison sentence.
That's what I meant. The end of the prison sentence, where he has been sentenced to 2 life sentences and 40 years for programming a website. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that. Of course, your calls and thoughts are welcome. 855-450-FREE is our number. Also, want to make sure you know about Divi. Divi's a cryptocurrency. Now, there's a lot of cryptos out there, so what is it that sets Divi apart? Well, first of all, there's a bunch of liberty-minded folks involved in its creation. Secondly, they've also made masternodes super easy. A masternode is a special node on the Divi network and on other crypto networks that allows you to create or to perform certain services for the network, and in return you get some rewards paid out in the same crypto. So you have to have Divi in order to create the masternode, and then you sort of lock up the Divi into the masternode, which technically restricts the supply of Divi on the market as well. And again, the masternode does certain services, and then you get rewards right into your wallet for doing that. So, but in order to get the masternode rolling, which is super easy with Divi, you do need to actually get Divi first. So to purchase Divi, you can do that at multiple exchanges, or better yet, just get it straight from the Divi team. Go to their Telegram channel to talk to them directly. You can link to that if you go to their website, diviproject.org, DIVI project.org, and check that out as we continue here. We're talking about cryptocurrency with Bitcoin hitting a new record high, pushing through not just 20,000 today, but 21,000, where it's currently sitting at close to 21,300 as we speak. In the same day, we're seeing news about Ross Ulbricht, the founder of the Silk Road, the world's first, circa 2011, what they call darknet marketplace. There was no such thing prior to the Silk Road. Silk Road was the innovator in that particular area. Now there's, I don't know, probably half a dozen of them at least out there at any
I'm sure there are
time.
considerably more.
Maybe. If you go to dark.fail, they do a pretty good job of kind of cataloging the ones that are worth talking about. I mean, I usually don't see that many. I mean, there's not like a dozen that I've seen on there. Maybe several, because they get taken down too, so they don't tend to last very long. You're lucky if these things will last more than a year in a lot of cases, simply because there's a lot of what they call exit scams involved in these darknet marketplaces. These are anonymous marketplaces, so you don't know who's running the thing, but people want to get drugs so bad they're willing to do whatever it is that they need to do, which means
they want to get safe drugs.
Yeah, which means I wouldn't say that they're safe per se. Some of them are dangerous and risky.
Well, they're not likely to be laced with fentanyl or whatever.
Right. So what you mean by that, by saying safe, is that they are what they're advertised as.
Right.
So you're not getting something that you don't know what it is. It almost is always what it's advertised as on these darknet market sites, and that's because there's open competition in a marketplace. And so if somebody doesn't have the real deal, drug that you're looking for, if they sell you something fake, you can leave them feedback. And then somebody else can see that feedback and choose not to buy from that person. So there's a reputation at stake on these sites, which is what Ross, really innovated when it came to creating not just the sort of the software that allows you to make the purchases and offer the various different products. And it's not just drugs. There's other things that they sell on these marketplaces, but that's sort of what they're known for. And also, Ross Ulbricht deserves a lot of credit for basically making Bitcoin useful.
Good point.
I think it was, and I don't know who gets credit for this, but I heard his mother, Lynn Ulbricht, who has just been on a nonstop kind of promotional help my son kind of tour that she's been doing the last several years since he was arrested back in 2013. He's been in prison ever since. He was sentenced in, I think, 2015. And again, to 2 life sentences plus 40 years. But she said that somebody told her that they thought Ross Ulbricht was the second most important man to Bitcoin, meaning that Satoshi Nakamoto would have been first. And we don't know if that's a man or a woman, but Satoshi Nakamoto being a completely anonymous individual who created, or maybe it's a group of people, who created cryptocurrency, who created Bitcoin back in 2009. That obviously was the most important person.
Obviously. It's going to be hard to beat the person who
created it, yeah. But to be second place, I think Ross Ulbricht's got that, and I think he's got it by a mile compared to...
I think that's a good argument.
I mean, who else would you say? I mean, who could else possibly be the second most important person to Bitcoin?
I'm not arguing with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just asking the question. If anybody wants to answer that, I'd love to hear it at 855-450.
It's definitely not Craig Wright.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a fraud. Ross Ulbricht actually created something really useful that made Bitcoin a killer app. Or he made a killer app for Bitcoin, basically. This marketplace that allows people to buy and sell pretty much whatever they want, with a few exceptions. They did ban things like poison, and they did ban child pornography. But aside from those two particularly offensive items, pretty much anything could be sold there. So, fake IDs, you could buy those at the Silk Road.
Which will probably repulse a lot of people. But with the fake ID, the only victim really is the government. So it's hard for me to care about that.
Sure, yeah. What do you care if some, the teenagers are going to get alcohol one way or another, whether it's by standing out in front of the convenience store asking homeless guys to go buy it for them, or it's presenting a fake ID. One way or the other, it's going to happen. So back to the story here. So Ross Ulbricht, the founder and former administrator of the Silk Road, according to the Daily Beast, President Donald Trump is actually weighing granting him clemency. According to 3 people familiar with the matter, the White House counsel's office has had documents related to Ulbricht's case under review, and Trump was recently made aware of the situation and the pleas of the Silk Road founders' allies. 2 of these sources say the president has at times previously and privately expressed some sympathy for Ulbricht's situation and has been considering his name, among others, for his next round of commutations and pardons before the January 20th inauguration of his 2020 Democratic opponent. It's unclear if Trump has arrived at a final decision yet, but Ulbricht has gained some influential backers in the president's political and social orbit. Behind the scenes, he has the support of some presidential advisors, as well as criminal justice reform advocates with close ties to the administration and Trump family.
This all sounds very promising.
Including Alice Johnson, according to people with knowledge of the matter. Now, Alice Johnson, isn't that the lady that he pardoned earlier this year?
It's not a name that I've heard before, I don't believe.
Yeah, I recognize the name because she spoke at, I believe, his some event of his recently. But yes, she had her life sentence commuted by Trump 2.5 years ago. And so he's done some good things for some people in jail who are wrongfully sentenced to insane levels or wrongfully convicted. So it's hard to get your hopes up, though. Man. I don't want to get my hopes. Like I never thought I would even see this story, that there was some sort of acknowledgement, although unofficial. Just 3 people said this to the Daily Beast who are supposedly inside the White House, but we can't say who they are because whatever.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot to go on here, but it is exciting potentially that this could happen. We will tell you more about this, 855-450-FREE, because it does need to happen. And you can go to freeross.org and you can sign the petition to get Ross out of prison if you care about ending this insane war on drugs. You should.
Mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
Our cat Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have 2 cats, Sweet Pea and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you want to do what's best for them, to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynavite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynavite for cats was coming out because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cat to Dynavite, I took the advice from Dynavite and put their food on top of just a scoop in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dynavite for life.
You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me.
Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa, hey, who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't gonna make it.
Wait a minute.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable!
Why are you running from me? Because you're scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this?
Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
You can put the Liberty Radio Network on the air in your area. Visit broadcast.lrn.fm to learn how. Broadcast.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Will Trump pardon Ross Ulbricht, the founder of the Silk Road, the world's first underground drug marketplace, and hero, in my opinion? That is to say,
I would agree.
Ross Ulbricht is a hero. If you want to comment, you're welcome to join us here at 855 450 free like freedom. And by the way, I want to say thanks to Bogart, who is a Free Talk Live Gold amplifier. That means that Bogart is contributing $10 a month. We ask for 5. He's doing 10, so thank you, Bogart, for that. To the AMP program. AMP stands for Advertise, Market, and Promote. It is a way for you to get behind what we do here on the show and talk about the ideas of freedom and liberty in as many places as possible, getting on more radio stations and bringing the ideas to more listeners. So if you appreciate that work that we do and you want to get some cool perks like some benefits like access, for instance, to the supporters chat room on our new Matrix server, you can do that by signing up at amp.freetalklive.com. You can use PayPal, credit card, debit card, or even Bitcoin BTC if you want to part with some of that right now over at amp.freetalklive.com. As we continue here, Ian and Aria in the studio tonight, talking about there's apparently at least 3 people, according to thedailybeast.com, somewhere inside the White House who are claiming, or at least people who are, quote, familiar with the matter, claim that the White House's counsel has had documents related to Ross Ulbricht's case under review and that Trump has been made aware of the situation and the pleas of the Silk Road's founders' allies. And he's been garnering several allies. I've seen a lot of people tweeting on Twitter, for instance, that Trump should look at this. I think one of them was, I don't know if it was Justin Amash.
I think it was
Thomas Massey. Yeah, Thomas Massey. And he's a U.S. representative. Now, I don't know if Trump follows him, but, you know, when I saw Thomas Massey tweeting it, I'm thinking, you know, this is getting kind of close to its target, right? Because the idea that Lynn Ulbricht had was, you know, talk to these Republicans, see who she can get close to. And you know, obviously we know a lot of them here in New Hampshire. So she was working New Hampshire during the presidential primary earlier this year and just trying to get people's attention, trying to get the movers and the shakers to pay attention to this horrifying case where a young man who was honestly a very talented programmer.
Clearly.
Yeah, he's a talented programmer, a very smart guy, created this amazing website that honestly saves lives. I mean, the Silk Road and the sites like it, through the process of harm reduction, meaning you referenced this earlier, selling drugs that are actually what they're advertised to be, which is totally different than what you get if you like meet some guy in a shady alley with, you know, sitting in a car or whatever, or in like a parking lot. You don't know what you're going to get in those cases. You have no way of testing those products on the spot. It's so shifty. It's so dangerous. People actually die regularly in the war on drugs, not because of, you know, anything the government has done specifically, but simply because government is prohibiting the drugs, and so it drives it underground, and it means that people are not so honest when it comes to the business people.
Right, because they have no reason to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, if you're going to stay in a particular geographic area and sell drugs, then you do still have a reason to hopefully pass on good drugs, because, you know, you do to some extent still want your customers to come back and buy more. So if they obviously get something fake, that's probably going to hurt your reputation, even in the black market. But
I think it's likelier that we get stuff that was laced with something that it wasn't supposed to be or something along those lines.
Yeah, so when our co-host, Nobody, went to jail for selling cannabis, there was a, quote, purported LSD charge that he also faced. You don't hear a lot about that aspect of it, but that was one of the charges that he was convicted of. And the reason why it was called purported LSD was because it wasn't actually LSD. It was something else. But
so he got ripped off at some point?
Correct. He thought it was LSD or
Did they
acid
charge
or
him for
whatever.
having fake LSD?
Yes.
Oh my God. But
Yeah.
he had nothing illegal.
Doesn't matter.
That's insane.
What matters is what you represent it as. So if I got a bag of sugar and I tell you it's cocaine and sell it to you,
they will sell you. They will charge
that's
you
a
with
felony charge.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's purported. You're selling something that is purported to be.
But was he
illegal
selling
substance.
the LSD, or did he just have it in his possession?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I think he was. So it
That's
can happen to
unfortunate.
it can happen to good people, right?
Sure.
Who get ripped off at some higher level and they don't realize it. And and again in the black market, it's like, well, did it get you high? Did it seem like kind of like acid? Kind of. Okay. Well, yeah, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. The average drug dealer doesn't take the time to send their drugs to a lab to have them tested. Anyway, if you're buying products on things like the Silk Road or other darknet markets, since it's an open marketplace of competition, it's very hard to get fake stuff.
Yeah, because the people have to rely on their user ratings and stuff like that. Nobody wants to buy from a guy who's got 6 comments saying that he sold them false stuff.
Right. And they're also competing on a global marketplace, whereas in your local area, you might only know 1 or 2 people that sells, say, ecstasy or something like that.
Right.
Or whatever is being purported as ecstasy. I can't tell you the last time I saw real ecstasy being sold in the streets. Now, that's not to say that I've purchased much ecstasy that in the streets, but the last time we did a test on some quote unquote ecstasy that was sold in the streets, it was totally fake. It was DXM, which is a cough medication that will, if you take enough of it, make you trip. But ultimately, it's nothing like ecstasy.
I've had some fake ecstasy before, but it wasn't. It may have been that.
You took the fake ecstasy?
I didn't know it was fake until after I took it.
Did it do anything to you?
No. It just made me tired.
Yeah, there's some that is actually dangerous. We had a guy who, again, we're talking about harm reduction, right? So you end up with something you didn't think that it was. In some cases, those things that are masquerading as the illegal drugs that they're not are actually much more dangerous than the illegal drugs. So ex-girlfriend of mine used to be a bit of an expert in these sorts of matters, and I think she said one of them was something called piperazine, also known as pipes, and that would just give people heart attacks, apparently, cause serious, or if you already had a condition, would exacerbate it. Guy named Capuzzo, who used to be the strongman or the muscle for Nobody back when he was a dealer here in town, he died after taking some quote-unquote ecstasy. And now he may have had some sort of a heart condition or whatever, but if it wasn't real ecstasy, then it's possible that whatever it was what actually ended up killing him. So we never ended up really finding out what he took. We didn't get that information from the whatever autopsy. I don't know if they could even figure that out through that process, but that's one that I chalk up to the war on drugs.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he didn't know what he was taking.
If he could just go into the store and buy some ecstasy, he wouldn't have to worry about what he was taking. He would know. Just like you don't go into the store worried, oh man, I hope this Tylenol is real, or I hope this alcohol isn't laced with cyanide.
Exactly. And so that's why the Silk Road has saved people's lives. That's why I'm certain it has saved people's lives, because there's hundreds of thousands of people who probably purchased drugs through the Silk Road. And while there may be some people who manage to overdose on the drugs they bought on the Silk Road,
that's the fault of the user.
In
not
most
the dealer.
cases, it's the fault of the user. Not always. So in the dark, or not darknet, but in the black market, if you buy from, let's say you're a heroin user and you buy from your usual heroin dealer, you're using the same heroin dealer. you figure you're getting the same sort of potency of heroin, but whoops, here's a batch that's 10 times more potent. I mean, it can happen.
Yeah.
It's not likely, but if you happen to get a batch that's 2-3 times more potent than it normally is, and you're used to taking X amount of heroin, so you dose your normal dose, well, you just took 3 times or however many times the dose was that you didn't realize that it was because you hadn't used it yet, and you're dead. Or you end up in the hospital.
That happened with one of my ex-girlfriends.
Yeah. She got an overdose accidentally, you mean?
Yeah. Or she died of fentanyl. It's not clear because fentanyl wasn't really popular back then. I think it's more likely that she just overdosed on some particularly potent heroin.
It's sad.
Yeah. She was like 22 when she died.
So
Tragic.
all of these people are victims of the war on drugs itself. And so the Silk Road saves those people's lives because every time I've ever seen drugs tested from from darknet marketplaces, it's always what they said it was. I've never seen a failed test from a darknet market.
That's a powerful statement.
Yeah, 855, 450, free like freedom. But yet they accused Ross at the sentencing of having killed people because of the Silk Road. Because somebody took too much heroin that he bought on the Silk Road. But how many lives have been saved? We can't count that.
What if you could cut your heating bills this winter with your existing wood-burning fireplace and not spend thousands doing it? You can with Great Wall of Fire fireplace grates. Our U.S. patented made-in-America Wall of Fire grates increase fireplace efficiency, eliminate fireplace smoke problems, and come with a 30-day money-back guarantee. See our grates in action and get free shipping from walloffire.com or call 800-274-7364. Fireplace heat without fireplace smoke. walloffire.com.
It's not over. Sadly, our nation is going through tough times again, with no end in sight, and nobody knows what might happen next year. That's why it's a good idea to plan ahead, so you aren't caught off guard. Nothing's more important than having enough food to eat, and we're here to help. We're My Patriot Supply, America's leading emergency preparedness company. We provide long-term emergency food that lasts up to 25 years in storage. When grocery stores run empty or disasters strike, our foods will be there when you need it most. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. We have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from. When the government tells you not to go out, you can have the peace of mind that comes from being prepared. When you order from MyPatriotSupply.com, your food will arrive discreetly at your doorstep in no time. Prepare today. Time is short. MyPatriotSupply.com. That's MyPatriotSupply.com.
Are you afraid to go to the mailbox because of letter after letter from the IRS? Are they stacking on more and more penalties and interest? By now, you know the problem won't go away on its own. Don't let the IRS chase you to your grave with penalties and interest and liens and levies. You need real help now. I'm Dan Pilla. I wrote the book on tax debt settlement, and I help thousands of people solve tax problems they thought couldn't be solved. I can help you too. Call 800-34-NO-TAX or go to my website, danpilla.com. That's danpilla.com. danpilla.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
It is Free Talk Live. The toll-free number if you want to join us here, 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And Arya.
Don't forget, you can join us on our Matrix chat server, where there are other Free Talk Live listeners hanging out, and other people who don't listen to Free Talk Live. It's a more of a libertarian chat server than anything else, but it's oriented generally around Free Talk Live and LRN.FM, the Liberty Radio Network. You can go to chat.lrn.fm. You'll get step-by-step instructions on how to join the server. That's chat.lrn.fm. As we continue here with the story of what appears to be some potentially very exciting news, but I'm trying not to get too excited about it because it actually hasn't happened yet. However, if the news drops before Christmas or afterwards, guys, he's got about a month, right? Because it's the inauguration's on January 20th. So he's got just over 4 weeks from now. Trump can do a commutation of Ross Ulbricht's sentence. He's probably not going to, if he does anything, it's probably going to be a commutation of the sentence.
Yeah, I don't see a pardon happening.
But that would be amazing because he was really sentenced harshly. I mean, actual drug dealers.
Barbarically harshly. I mean, 2 life sentences, that's barbaric in the first place.
Yes.
But plus 40 years, that's unnecessarily. Well, there's no amount of barbarism that's really necessary, but that's...
It's insult to injury. It's really, and it's just horrifying. This judge that was involved in this particular case, Catherine, I think Forrest was her name, was just terrible all throughout the entire trial, refused to allow certain evidence in that could have helped Ross, and just was, she threatened the jurors at one point if they listened to the jury nullification advocates outside. She threatened to actually lock the jurors away if the jury nullification advocates wouldn't stop. And when I say the jury nullification advocates, I mean the Keeniacs who went there, Derek J. Freeman and Jay Freeville, James Cleveland, who were actually out front. Also, Jim Babb from the Philly area was there, and Michelle Seven. So basically, almost all people from the Keene area went out there to
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, went all the way down to New York City and stood out there in the freezing cold to hold signs during his trial. The judge actually threatened to sequester the jury if the outreach continued outside the courthouse. And so that actually scared his mom into requesting that the activists stop doing it.
Tragic.
And so even though
this judge sounds like a real piece of work.
Oh, yeah, she's a real bitch. So what they did was they tried to appease this judge. And you know what? It didn't help at all. Sending the activists home at the beginning of the trial didn't help at all. Because the idea was, well, we've got to appease the judge, so she'll go easy on him.
You definitely don't want a judge angry at you. But ultimately, it's not the judge who's making the decision, right?
But it was. The judge does the sentencing. So the decision
but
is
if the jury had said not guilty, then the judge would have had nothing to sentence.
That much is true.
But I do understand the reasoning because it's risky. You know, the possible penalties here were major. But the judge could have said, okay, 5 years.
She could have, but no, the pandering to the judge did not reduce his sentence. It didn't do anything to reduce his sentence. So they would have been just as better off if they'd let the jury nullification, or if his mom had let the jury nullification people continue to do their outreach. And I think she realized that later on, but at the time she was scared, right? Like it's her son, and obviously she wanted to do what she thought was best for him, but ultimately it didn't help. It actually may have, it certainly didn't hurt. It didn't help.
It could have been worse.
Yeah.
So
It couldn't have been. Exactly. So back to the story here. Trump again has done some. He's already done some pardoning and some commutation of sentences, and not just to his buddies like Roger Stone, but to people like Alice Johnson, who were serving lengthy prison terms for crimes that, in her case, I believe she was involved in cocaine distribution, if I recall correctly, and they just threw the book at her.
Yeah, she got a life sentence or something.
Something serious like that, yeah. So activist Weldon Angelos said, I've had documents forwarded to my contacts in the White House as early as February. Weldon is a former music producer and ex-federal inmate. He said in a brief interview Tuesday evening, quote, "In the beginning of the year, Ross's family had reached out to us for our support, and my organization and I have endorsed his full commutation, and I'm hopeful that President Trump will commute his sentence in its entirety. This case has perhaps more support than I've seen in any case of this kind."
Wow.
So that's a pretty big deal. And I guess he's one of the primary movers on this. The White House did not respond for a request for comment for this story on Tuesday. Quote, "We're very grateful for and admire all President Trump has done for criminal justice reform, especially passing the First Step Act, because that has freed thousands of desperate and deserving people, some of whom I know. We're praying and remain hopeful that he will show mercy on Ross as he has others, and commute his sentence to time served and give my son a second chance at life." That was Lynn Ulbricht, as she spoke to the Daily Beast on Tuesday night.
And I hope it happens, man.
We've had Lynn on the show a number of times over the years. I really do as well. I mean, not just for her benefit and for her sanity, because I mean, this is her life now.
Yeah. Her son is in prison.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had to mortgage or double mortgage their house or something like that in order to get the money to just keep moving around the country, because when they move Ross from one prison to another, Lynn moves from one, geographic area to another geographic area, because if your son is in the prison in Colorado but your house is in New York City, it's going to be an inconvenience to have to fly there. So it's just easier to just move and just stay near that prison. So every time they move him, they move. Ulbricht was the founder and administrator of the Silk Road Darknet drug marketplace, which used the Tor anonymity network to hide the location of servers and cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin to allow users to purchase drugs anonymously, or at least close enough. The website was the first large-scale darknet drug marketplace and spawned a host of imitators over the years, many of which have since closed down or been raided by law enforcement. In fact, do you remember when Silk Road 2.0 came out? Were you paying attention back then to this stuff?
I was paying attention, yeah, but I mean, it's been a busy few years.
Sure. So
I think I remember Silk Road 2.0.
Yeah, it didn't last very long. It started out with an undercover agent as its administrator. So they'd infiltrated the old Silk Road and had taken over one of the administrator accounts. So when the first Silk Road went down, it retained into Silk Road 2.0 some of its old administrators, including one of the federal agents that had been, without their knowledge, had become one of the administrators, because they'd arrested the actual administrator and replaced him with a federal agent. And so Silk Road 2.0 was basically doomed from day one. But the guy who was running that site, who got the sort of all the credit, sort of as the new Ross Ulbricht, his name was Blake Benthall, and he basically walked away with I think it was either a very light sentence or virtually unscathed. And he was doing the exact same thing that Ross did. He was running the Silk Road. But yet he didn't have anything near as far as the sentence that Ross did. I'm trying to pull up.
Well, it's pretty obvious they were trying to make an example of Ross Ulbricht to discourage anyone else from attempting to do it. But it clearly wasn't successful. So at this point, the two life sentences in 40 years was always excessive. But at this point, it's not even accomplishing what they intended it to do, because there are plenty of darknet marketplaces.
Right, yeah. They thought they were going to send a message by putting Ross in forever.
And it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't at all. Blake Benthall, here's actually an update on that story from news.bitcoin.com. This is 2019. So they point out here, of course, that Ross Ulbricht has been in jail for years. Thomas White was Dread Pirate Roberts II, and Blake Benthall was known as DEFCON, were both arrested but both let out on bail since their initial arrest, something that didn't happen to Ross at any point. He was arrested in 2013 and has been inside a federal facility.
Why didn't they allow him bail?
Because he was Ross Ulbricht. I mean, he's the alleged Dread Pirate Roberts, the most wanted man on the internet. So, but his second guy, the follow-up, Silk Road 2, these guys, they were given bail. And let's see, Thomas White was recently sentenced to 5 years in prison, but spent the last few years living normally and even using the name The Cthulhu online to comment on tech articles that dealt with subjects like privacy and Tor. No one really knew what happened to Benthal, and it had seemed that he had escaped the punishment of the court system. However, according to a document obtained by Motherboard, which is a Vice website, Benthal worked with law enforcement and will likely get off with no prison time. Quote, so
he's a snitch.
Well, it's not clear what he's done. Quote, if the defendant fully complies with the understanding specified in this agreement, he will not be further prosecuted criminally by this office for any crimes except criminal tax violations, unquote, according to the assistant U.S. attorney. I mean, that almost certainly means that he's a snitch.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it sounds like they granted him immunity as well.
But on whom is he snitching? Was it the other guy that was running the site? And the thing with Ross was he couldn't snitch on anyone. He was the creator, right? So, he couldn't roll on anybody. The toll-free number here is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. We can continue. You can join us here. Is it true? Is Donald Trump really considering giving Ross Ulbricht a commutation of his sentence, which would be amazing? This is Free Talk Live.
Remember when you first heard about Bitcoin? How long did it take you to realize this little project would soon change the world? Do you kind of wish you had gotten involved sooner? Well, now is your chance to be a part of the next revolution in money. Intercoin is working to finally make crypto go mainstream. It's designed to be scalable enough to support everyday payments and even elections without the state. Bitcoin was originally supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system, the way we would all pay one another without having to trust any third party. But instead, over time, it mostly became a store of value. That's because every 10 minutes, the Bitcoin network must put all transactions into a block, and that block can only hold so much. If crypto is to become mainstream, for people to use it for everyday payments, we need a new architecture, one that is as secure as Bitcoin while being far more scalable. Check out intercoin.org to find out more and maybe pick up some of those coins for yourself.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Stamps.com brings the post office and UPS shipping right to your computer. Go to Stamps.com to start a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale with promo code FOX. That's Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top of the page and type in FOX.
They're still talking. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Facing a Friday deadline, lawmakers are reporting some progress on a coronavirus relief package.
The roughly $900 billion proposal would not include 2 contentious provisions: funding for state and local governments or liability protection for businesses. But it would renew enhanced unemployment benefits and provide additional direct payments to individuals.
It means for a family of 4, as I understand what's in the bill, that's $2,400 at a very difficult moment in our economy, and that's something.
Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders says he's still pressing for more in stimulus payments, joining Missouri Republican Josh Hawley in that effort, but did not indicate whether or not he would block fast passage should a deal come together. On Capitol Hill, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Vice President Mike Pence and wife Karen set to get the COVID-19 vaccine Friday. That's according to a statement from the White House. President Trump has said he is willing to get the shot, but has not said when that will happen. Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden could get it as soon as next week, according to a transition official. A social media site cracking down on misinformation about the vaccine.
Starting December 21st, Twitter will start to remove tweets making false claims about COVID-19 vaccines, prioritizing the most harmful, misleading information, and early next year it may label posts pushing unsubstantiated rumors, disputed claims, or out-of-context information about vaccines.
Fox's Kristen Goodwin, Facebook, and YouTube have also announced they will remove misinformation about the vaccine. A federal judge has ruled it's unconstitutional for the state of Ohio to refuse to allow people to change gender listings on their birth certificate, and saying the reasoning the state used, that it prevents fraud, is a thinly veiled excuse for discrimination. The state is considering an appeal. America is listening to Fox News.
Life can be stressful, even under normal circumstances. 2020 has challenged even the most difficult times of life. These days, you need stress relief that goes beyond quick fixes. That's Headspace. Headspace is your daily dose of mindfulness in the form of guided meditations in an easy-to-use app. Headspace is one of the only meditation apps advancing the field of mindfulness and meditation through clinically validated research. So, however today's news hits you, Headspace really can help you feel better. Headspace's approach to mindfulness can reduce stress, improve sleep, boost focus, and increase your overall sense of well-being. Backed by 25 published studies on its benefits, Headspace has 600,000 five-star reviews and over 60 million downloads. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace is meditation made simple. Go to headspace.com/Fox. That's headspace.com/Fox for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. This is the best deal offered right now. Head to headspace.com/Fox today.
The Northeast and Mid-Atlantic getting ready for what forecasters predict could be a major snowstorm. New Jersey has declared a state of emergency.
The storm is bringing with it the potential for at least a foot of snow to perhaps 18 inches across the I-78 corridor and north, with localized accumulations of even more in the higher elevations in the northwest corners of the state.
Governor Phil Murphy, the National Weather Service says parts of the Mid-Atlantic could see freezing rain and ice, and North Carolina's Outer Banks could see severe thunderstorms and some tornadoes. The heaviest snow is expected in central Pennsylvania. Police in Minneapolis cracking down on carjackers and other criminals.
A 3-day push to get violent criminals off the streets. Minneapolis Police Chief Madaria Arad.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Later in the hour, the U.S. Postal Service announces that you can deliver the mail yourself if you think it's so easy. But first up in health news, researchers from Harvard University have found a strong link between male virility and wearing Motley Crue denim jackets. For the study, researchers paired fans of the band with a control group and found that those wearing Motley Crue attire were far more likely to knock out some chick's totally jacked boyfriend and then do it with her later that same day than those who simply wore casual clothes and probably wouldn't know what it feels like to have 2 threesomes in one night.
Men who own jackets with an image of Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx sitting on top of a pair of breasts with nipples in the shape of pentagrams showed higher levels of sexual potency, endurance, and libido. These guys do it all the time, and sometimes even in public. They don't care.
Although the study primarily focused on men in Motley Crue jackets, researchers also found that men who listened to Nirvana had a high likelihood of staying virgins forever.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. You dial in toll free here at 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. Or you can call us on our Matrix chat server, where you'll sound almost like you're sitting here in the studio. As we kick off the second hour of the show, we're talking a little bit more. There's more information here about Ross Ulbricht and the chance that he might be actually receiving a commutation from Donald Trump. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And Arya.
So we're sharing from the story from the dailybeast.com, and I'm skipping over the summary of the case.
We've summarized it throughout the show anyway.
We've touched on it. We haven't barely even talked about the case itself, which was a cluster F involving corrupt cops, two of whom actually went to prison themselves for trying to steal Bitcoin from the Silk Road. While they're on the job. And so just an incredible level of corruption, an incredible level of malfeasance on the case of the prosecution and on the case of the judge in this particular case. When I say incredible level, I mean so ridiculous to the point that I don't even want to start trying to talk about it. I will leave stuff out. There's a lot of information there. Luckily, there's a really good documentary that they put together over at freeross.org that goes exhaustively through this story. And really, if you've heard us talking about this tonight and you've never heard of Ross Ulbricht before and you're like, what's all this about? This sounds really interesting. 2 life sentences plus 40 years for running a website. What's this about? Well, take some time out and either watch or listen to or read through the documentary that they created over at freeross.org. It is amazing.
There's another documentary coming out about him in early 2021, I believe.
Who's making it?
I don't recall.
Because it could be a hack job. It could be a hit piece against him. The one on his website is obviously in favor of him.
Obviously. It's not impartial by any means.
I mean, what's somebody going to say against Ross Ulbricht? Oh, he's a bad man. He sold drugs.
Yeah, well, pretty much that.
What else do they have against him? He's actually a good guy who sold drugs. He never hurt anybody.
Nope.
And he didn't sell really very many drugs. He did sell some mushrooms apparently on the site as its first dealer way back in the day when he started the site.
Oh, no, mushrooms.
Right, because how else are you going to get a dealer on a website where you just created it, right? So you probably have to do your own selling in that case. So he did do a little bit of drug sales, but it was just mushrooms, which, as you point out, are probably the safest of all of the illegal drugs.
Well, cannabis is probably safer.
No, actually, according to the there's like a drug harm chart that Professor David Nutt came out with back, I don't know, most of a decade ago. He was the former drug czar, or the equivalent of the drug czar in the UK government, and he ended up leaving that position and turning onto the good side of the war on drugs. And he came out with so he's an advocate for the end of prohibition, and he came out with this drug harms chart, which combines the harms, quote, to society and to the individual of each drug, and gets like a total harm score for each one of them. And so heroin and alcohol are the top, I think, 1 and 2. They're like basically tied for first place. They're real close.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I knew alcohol was bad, but
real
tied
bad.
with heroin bad?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then as you go down the list, marijuana is sort of like below the halfway point, but it's not the lowest one on the list. It's actually mushrooms, if I recall correctly.
I'm going to have to look at this list. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. Just search for Professor David Nutt with 2 T's and like drug list or drug rankings or something like that.
Does he do a breakdown if you remove societal harm from the equation?
You could look at that, and I think then cannabis would go down a little bit, if I recall
imagine
correctly.
It would probably be tied with mushrooms at that point.
You'd have to take a look. He does break it down. If you look at the graphing, it shows what part of the graph is the personal harm and what part of the graph is the societal harm. So, Ross Ulbricht, a little bit more here about his story. But yeah, go to freeross.org, sign the petition to help him get out of prison, and take the time to learn about it. If you don't know about the case, honestly, I haven't watched the whole documentary, but I watched parts of it, and it was exhaustively presented, like really well researched, lots of good information. It will infuriate you what happened to him.
I saw one of the short write-ups that Spike Cohen did during his vice presidential campaign, and it's just shocking the level of corruption and fraud presented by the state against Ross Ulbricht in order to secure this 2 life sentence plus 40 conviction.
Well, the interesting thing is we only know how shocking it is because we paid attention, and the people, that were on the outside were watching closely with that particular case, those who are his supporters. So many other people have corrupt cops dealing with their case, but they don't have international level coverage. They don't have, their case isn't getting, national radio coverage or anything like that. So your average federal court case doesn't have a media circus around it. It doesn't have all the attention that the Ross Ulbricht case did. So there's thousands of people that are in prison cells who don't belong, probably hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. in prison cells who don't belong there, but Ross gets most of the attention, and it's not fair, but that's the way it is. So hopefully Ross can get out. At the very least, it'll be
It's a lot fairer than 2 life sentences plus 40.
So the movement to grant clemency to Ulbricht, according to thedailybeast.com, has picked up support from celebrities, including British rapper MIA, and a handful of prominent Trump world and Republican Party figures, including Representative Thomas Massie, Republican from Kentucky, and TPUSA founder Charlie Kirk, who recently tweeted that Ulbricht had received, quote, insane over-sentencing, unquote, and that the post-election period would be, quote, the perfect time to grant mercy to a family and young man who has become a victim of our aggressive Department of Justice.
That's
unquote.
Surprising from him.
Yeah, he's a right-winger, right?
Yeah.
On Tuesday, GOP strategist Andrew Sharabian, formerly an official in the Trump White House, posted to Twitter that, quote, Ross got screwed by the feds with an insanely harsh sentence. Few people deserve clemency from real Donald Trump, that's his Twitter username, more in my opinion. So basically saying this guy's a top candidate to receive this.
And who was this guy who tweeted this?
A former White House official.
Okay.
GOP,
so someone who Trump may actually read the tweet.
He might, presumably. His name is Andrew Serbian, formerly an official in the White House. A movie about the online drug market and the Ulbricht saga is set for release in February of 2021.
Oh, so it's not about Ulbricht, it's about the Silk Road.
Could be. Ulbricht was also the subject of Nick Bilton's best-selling book, American Kingpin. But there's been a lot of hit pieces out there.
That sounds like a hit piece.
Yeah, about Ross. Support for his case is strongest in both the overlapping worlds of libertarian activism and cryptocurrency fans, both of which counted Ulbricht as an enthusiastic member prior to his arrest. Libertarian Party presidential candidate Joe Jorgensen campaigned on a platform that included pardoning Ulbricht, alongside whistleblowers Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden. And there's been some talk about Trump pardoning Snowden as well. In fact, Trump even suggested that he was considering that a couple of months ago.
I hope so.
But
pardon Snowden, Assange, Manning, and Ross Ulbricht.
He should do all of those things. And whether he will do any of them or not is another question. And that's why I say
we only have to wait 4 weeks to find out.
Just temper your expectations. Prepare to be disappointed.
I'm always disappointed by the state.
Yeah. But like I said, I think I told you this offline. If Trump actually pardons or commutes the sentence of Ross Ulbricht, I'll probably have to vote for him.
I'm pretty sure I promised that I would vote for him in every presidential election going forward.
I don't think I promised that far, but I know I definitely promised to vote for him this year if he reduced his sentence or pardoned him, or commuted or pardoned him, and I'd go ahead and give it to him for 2024 if he actually does it this time. If he runs again in 2024, if he actually commutes the sentence of Ross Ulbricht, I'm going to feel like I have to. I'm going to feel like I'm obligated to vote for Trump. And honestly, it won't feel bad.
No, because, that's one really good thing. So, that probably outweighs a lot. Plus, Trump didn't get us into any new wars.
That's true.
So
he did remove some
voting for him.
troops. He actually did order troops from Afghanistan to come home from Afghanistan.
Which are all steps in the right direction, and allegedly may be moving home more from Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm. We need to check in on that because he had talked about doing that toward the end of this year, and we're getting closer. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. We've got the Matrix chat server as well. You can go to chat.lrn.fm. We'll talk about a Michigan business owner and mother who's being fined $1,000 a day for keeping her cafe open. That's on the way. It's Free Talk Live.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. D-I-V-I project.org. Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find a cornucopia of information, neatly organized for your needs. If you're a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com where you can get the latest headlines. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. All put together by the best minds in the business to teach you about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by DJ Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Every year, over 1 million fires burn in America. Fortunately, firefighters are on the job, saving life and property, and you can be a part of it. 7 out of 10 firefighters and emergency responders are volunteers. There's no typical firefighter. Anyone can volunteer to serve their community. Volunteering as a first responder is really about having the heart and drive to make a difference where it's needed most. Your community needs you. Are you ready to answer the call? Learn more and find local volunteer opportunities at makemeafirefighter.org.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Some of our live shows are streamed in HD on Twitch. Please follow and share at twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. You're invited if you want to join us here talking about the Silk Road and the war on drugs, the insane war on drugs, which, of course, Trump has not ended. But maybe he will let Ross Ulbricht out of prison.
That would be fantastic.
Is, at the very least, a symbolic move and would absolutely be amazing if that happened. Don't get your hopes up, though, or you might end up being very disappointed as time goes on. But the fact that it's even in the news, I'm glad about. because at the very least, it brings more attention to Ross's case. Every time a news media writes a story about Ross's case, somebody hears about it for the first time. Every time we talk about it on the radio, somebody hears about it for the very first time ever. Now, of course, the odds that Joe Biden will ever pardon Ross Ulbricht are probably near to zero.
Not with Kamala Harris as his VP. I mean, she was a drug warrior.
Don't forget that Joe Biden himself was one of the authors of the RAVE Act, which was a crackdown against, well, raves in the early part of the aughts, and he was involved in, I believe, some of the most serious escalations of the war on drugs in the 47 years that he was in office as a politician. So
the
he is
irony
a drug
of this
warrior.
Is that the Republican Donald Trump is less of a drug warrior than the vice president, than the Democratic
That's correct.
presidential candidates coming in next.
That's the truth.
That's insane.
So if you want to comment, please join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. We can talk about this business owner who is keeping her cafe open and facing up to $1,000 fines for every single day that her cafe is open. We'll tell you more. We'll tell you about her coming up here in just a moment. But also in the news, since we were talking about Afghanistan, we're talking about Trump doing some of the good things that he's doing, including removing troops from Afghanistan. Now, a couple months ago when he first announced this, it sounded like Trump was going to remove all the troops from Afghanistan. Turns out that's not the case. Sadly,
there's still it rarely is the case.
Yeah,
I mean, Obama promised to remove all of the troops from Iraq as well,
and close Guantanamo.
Yeah, and did it. Closing Guantanamo was the real sore point with me because he did explicitly promise to do that. He did. It was one of the reasons I supported him.
Yep.
And
you voted for him, right?
I wasn't old enough to vote.
Oh, okay.
But he did not, in fact, close Gitmo.
No, he didn't.
He expanded it.
He made
He added a
excuses,
nursing home to it.
Did he really?
There's a nursing home at Guantanamo Bay.
Oh my God! For all the people who are in prison there but are too old, so they're like in a total lockdown nursing home.
Yep.
Basically. Wow, I didn't even hear about that.
Thank you, Barack Obama.
Well, that's your Nobel Peace Prize winner there, Barack Obama. So arguably Donald Trump has done more for peace than the Nobel Peace Prize winner, who dropped an S-ton of bombs in his time as president. Barack Obama did.
So has Trump.
Trump has dropped a lot of bombs too. There's no doubt about it.
But not in any new places.
And he's removing troops from Afghanistan. According to Fox News, the drawdown is underway. After almost 20 years, bases are being closed and troops are heading home. General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, suggested that just 2 large bases and several satellite ones will remain for the 2,500 soldiers who stay. So there's still going to be a couple thousand troops on the ground there. But on the ground, the situation's getting worse. The Taliban is launching more attacks and taking more ground, and thousands have fled their homes. For those people, a peace deal seems a long way off, and many are losing faith that it will succeed. The rise in violence is thought to be a tactic by the Taliban to gain leverage in negotiations. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that it puts the peace deal at risk, adding, quote, "I made clear to them that the violence levels can't continue while these negotiations go on. It won't work. And so we've asked all of them to stand back and indeed stand down," unquote. The Afghan army has been trained
Isn't that the same thing that Trump said to the Proud Boys?
Right, yeah. Stand by and stand down, I think, or stand down and stand by, I think was what Trump said. Yeah. The Afghan army has been trained by the U.S. to fight in its place and conduct all ground missions and 96% of air missions themselves, but it's not thought that it can stand up to the Taliban alone. Even after the drawdown, the U.S. will continue air support, funding, and training, all in accordance with the deal they made with the Taliban, and about 6,500 other NATO troops remain. But for America, the country's longest war, is winding down.
That's demonstrably not true. But who is this peace deal with? Is it with the Taliban?
Apparently.
Was it the whole point of the war in Afghanistan to get rid of the Taliban?
That's what I think. That's my recollection.
Was a long time ago.
Right. It's 20 years ago.
That's what bothered me most about this entire presidential election. We had this 20-year-old war here.
Yep.
And not one single mention of it during any of the debates.
No talk.
That's
about
the ultimate level of privilege. Your country has been involved in a war for 20 years, and neither one of your presidential candidates made any mention of it.
Well, and there was no question asked, right?
Yep.
So whoever the moderators were of that debate didn't want to ask a question about war for whatever reason.
That's why it's never going to end. They're like, oh, it's winding down. But it's not, because Americans don't care enough to even hold their debate moderators to account for not asking any questions about 20 years of a quagmire.
Not just 20 years. The final paragraph of this story gives some final numbers, or currently nearly final numbers. The Afghan war has cost nearly 2,500 American lives, and the U.S. taxpayers $1 trillion, with $138 billion of that spent on so-called relief and reconstruction. But being on the ground, they say at Fox News, it's hard to see where that money has gone.
It went into the pockets of politicians and Halliburton.
Yep. Exactly right.
It is. I mean, they're the construction company that was hired to rebuild Iraq and Afghanistan.
So
Dick Cheney's Halliburton, by the way. For those who weren't paying attention, he is at least a part owner of Halliburton, if not full owner.
Didn't they rename Halliburton to something else? Or I'm thinking of Blackwater. That's what it was.
The mercenary
security group that got renamed to Z and then got renamed again. And I don't know what the new name is. And I guess that's the whole point of the renaming, is to confuse people.
Yeah. Regardless, the United States government is in fact still hiring mercenaries to fight in these places. So they may not have 2,500 American soldiers in Afghanistan.
But how many mercs do they have?
Yeah.
That's a good question. It does say there are 6,500 other NATO troops who will remain there. So by no means is this a complete exit. However, Trump did piss some of the warmongers off by making this announcement that there would be troops removed from Afghanistan. And it is interesting that Trump has managed to, by being even a little bit more peaceful than some of his predecessors.
Like Nobel Peace Prize winner Barack Obama,
right?
For example.
By even being a little bit more peaceful, he is pissing off these Democrats, because every time he talks about removing troops from a place, they all scream to the high heavens about how dangerous this is and how bad this is for international policy. We've got to keep all the troops in all of the places, they say. So now he's making the Democrats look like war hawks.
They always have been.
Sure, but they're now coming out and obviously being that.
But do Democrats care?
Apparently not. They've voted for another war hawk.
They did, because all of this happened when Joe Biden was vice president. Well, not all of it.
But a lot of it did.
It continued, and it escalated into Syria and Libya and Egypt and all of these other places throughout the world, not to mention Operation Fast and Furious and all of this other nonsense. Joe Biden was like, yeah, Barack, let's do it.
Right, and that's a scary thing for what's coming next, right? Because even though these troops are being withdrawn from Afghanistan, where is Biden going to send them next?
That's scary.
Yeah. Toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. But, hey, $1 trillion, well, that's not really that much these days.
It's like a stimulus package.
Yeah,
it's fine.
And they are talking about another stimulus package that's going to be around $1 trillion. Not sure if it's going to pass, because they may need to load some more trillions in there before it does. More coming up here. This is Free Talk Live. Did we say you should buy Bitcoin?
Mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
Our cat Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have two cats, Dixie and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you want to do what's best for them to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynavite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynavite for cats was coming out, because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cat to Dynavite, I took the advice from Dynavite and put their food on top of just a scoop in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dynavite for life.
You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important, because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agrishosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agris Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agrishosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agrishosting.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Love what we do? Please help support our international satellite channels at patreon.lrn.fm. That's patreon.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. Join us on the radio. Take control of the airwaves here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. 855-450-3733. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And it's Aria.
Check out Bitcoin.com. You need the latest news information. They got it over at news.bitcoin.com. I was just there today. There's always something fresh they're posting up there. Interesting content. Of course, now we're seeing Bitcoin blowing up again. You just told me a moment ago, $21,600 now?
Indeed.
That's another all-time record high.
I imagine we're going to be saying that quite a lot in the next few months.
I hope so. Maybe in the next few hours, if all goes well.
We said it at the start of the show, and then we said it again an hour and a half later.
Yeah, I think you had said that you're predicting 25,000 sometime tonight, but you never know.
But I'm backing off on that because it's nighttime, and the upward trajectory is clearly slowing down. It'll pick back up in the morning.
Wait a minute. Yeah, hold on. You're forgetting the fact that last night it went up over its previous all-time high. Remember, if it's nighttime here, it's daytime in Asia. And there's a lot of Bitcoin buyers in China, for instance.
What time did it hit 20,000, though?
I have no idea. I was sleeping. So sometime this morning, which could be the overnight.
I didn't even see it until I went to check the news, right? And then it was like, hey, Bitcoin breaks record 20,000. I was like, oh, I missed that.
Oh, 21,716 now.
Okay, maybe 25,000 then. I don't know. Seems high at this point. When I said that, it was like 5:30. So
it's been doing like stair-step patterns all day where it'll jump up real big, all in one, less than 10-minute time frame, and then kind of go over to, stay steady for a little while and then jump up again. So let's hope that keeps doing that all night long.
Someone pointed out on Twitter, and I don't recall who it was, but it's absolutely official at this point. Anyone who held Bitcoin made a profit.
If they held.
Anyone who held Bitcoin.
If you panicked and you sold because the price was diving after it hit its previous record high, then you lost.
Yeah.
But if you held, and
that's every single person who ever held Bitcoin right now has made profit.
That's correct. If they sold it.
If they held it.
Right. No, but what I mean is you don't make the, quote, profit until you sell it.
Or spend it.
Well, yeah, that's true. But what I mean is, like, if you just hold it and you keep holding it and it goes down again tomorrow, then you haven't, quote, made a profit. So in order to make a profit, you'd have to sell it right now. But why would you want to do that?
Unless you're just going to sell it at markup and then rebuy it. I mean, obviously.
Yeah. Why would you want to sell the Bitcoin? Because it might go up some more. But you never know.
I fully expect it to go up some more. I mean, the institutional push into Bitcoin has just started.
It's big.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to see J.P. Morgan, Chase Manhattan, and all of these other huge banks developing their own internal cryptocurrency wallets, some of which already have been authorized to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And once that happens, the average 80-year-old lady is going to go into Wells Fargo or whatever, and they'll be like, hey, we would suggest you divert some of your checking balance into your Bitcoin balance.
In fact, let's check on the numbers here from the government, or not government, but from the major corporations. Remember, we were talking previously about Bitcoin and it having exceeded the value of the Disney Corporation.
Wow.
This was a couple months ago.
Disney almost runs the world.
This was a couple months ago, though. So the market capitalization, so the stock market capitalization of the 50 largest American companies, Disney is at number 16 on this list according to iWebList.com. I don't have a... Okay.
I'm terrified that they're that low. Who are the others?
So Disney was at $318 billion. Bitcoin is now at over $400 billion in market cap.
Go Bitcoin.
So that moves Bitcoin up the list to, let's see, Bitcoin is at exactly, according to CoinGecko.com, $402.2 billion.
Fascinating.
And Johnson & Johnson is at 402.65. So Bitcoin is right now the number 11. If you rank it amongst the top 50 U.S. corporations, again, these are stock-based corporations, so it doesn't include private corporations. We don't know what those are worth.
I can't imagine too many of them getting up to the hundreds of billions of dollars of worth without being publicly traded.
But Walmart would then be number 9, Visa at number 8, Berkshire Hathaway at 7, Tesla at 6, Facebook at 5, Alphabet Inc., which is Google, at 4, Amazon.com at 3, Microsoft at number 2, and number 1?
Please don't say Apple.
It's Apple.
I knew it would have to be since they hadn't already been mentioned, but I was really hoping it wasn't Apple.
But
Apple sells fashion accessories, people. Stop buying these overly priced fashion accessories.
Bitcoin now bigger than JP Morgan Chase.
Good.
Yep. And now JP Morgan Chase is like, do we buy any of that stuff, guys? Can we check, make sure we bought some of that Bitcoin stuff?
No, we closed the accounts of all the customers who would have sold it to us. Crap. We're screwed. Now we want to buy some. I can't wait to give them the middle finger when they come to us wanting to buy Bitcoin.
Let's go to Joe. He's in Michigan. Joe, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I remember a couple of weeks ago they were talking about the federal government decriminalizing weed. I don't know if it'll happen. I doubt it, but
I think there's enough public support for it at this point that they will decriminalize it.
It's inevitable. There's so many states that
I think it'll be inevitable, but they're going to drag their feet on it.
Oh, of course they are. They've been dragging their feet for 40 years.
Yeah, if they do, man, they need to make it legal. I mean, 100%, no more, you don't have to worry about your boss, testing you or any, if you go out on a party on the weekend, smoke a few joints, you shouldn't have to worry about losing your job Monday morning as long as you show up not stoned, but sober,
Indeed.
100% legal, quit playing games, and, if the government wants to do anything, they could help people like, addicts get clean or something. But this, how much money? I mean, how much money are they going to waste on this? It's not working, man.
It must have been hundreds of billions, if not trillions, or I don't know. It's been a lot of money that they've thrown away on the war on drugs, and it has been an abject failure from every single factor, every aspect of it that you can look at. It's been a miserable failure. It has cost countless lives, people who've died in prison, being sentenced to life in prison or dozens of years and ending up dying inside for selling drugs or even just possession of drugs in some cases. There was a bright spot, though, Joe, this year in Oregon. The voters of the state of Oregon voted to decriminalize all drugs for small possession of
That's right, they did. I'd forgotten about that.
Drugs. So we are starting to see some changes. We've seen mushrooms being decriminalized in cities like Oakland, Denver, I believe Santa Cruz in California as well. So there have been multiple cities now. And where these things have been decriminalized, it's been unanimous support by the city councils there. There hasn't even been a single dissenting vote.
Know, they're going to make it legal. Make it legal. No more exemptions. No more, well, if you work for this guy or whatever. As long as, like I say, as long as you show up to work and you're not stoned, man, it doesn't.
Well, business owners should be able to set their own rules. I mean, we have churches and stuff. They don't want to hire alcoholics, even if they don't drink at work. That's fine.
I mean, there's some jobs where you should show up stoned, but there are some jobs where it's generally a bad plan, like if you're going to be using heavy equipment or something like that. But if you're an artist or a comedian or something like that, then you can probably show up stoned.
Always assume your delivery drivers are stoned too.
Yeah, you mean the pizza business?
It's like alcohol. Any job, if you show up drunk to work, you're going to lose your job. But no, your boss isn't going to say, well, you went out to the bar Saturday, so I'm going to fire you. I mean, it's.
Well, they may say that to a Catholic school teacher.
Well, that's a religious thing. That's different under the First Amendment, but I'm just talking about normal people. You're working in a factory or you're working in wherever you're working. Who cares what you did on your free time, man? But.
We used to throw parties at the radio station I worked at. We weren't supposed to do that, but we did.
I'm not surprised.
Hey, Joe, thanks for the call tonight, man. I definitely appreciate hearing from you. He's right, though. I mean, it's high time the war on drugs came to an end.
Yeah, just about everywhere that as far as I know of, everywhere that the war of drugs has been ended and decriminalization was put in instead, and they actually attempted to treat addiction instead of incarcerating people, it's been a monumental success.
Absolutely, from every aspect.
It's weighing a monumental failure against an enormous success.
And we're going to start to see those numbers from Oregon. It's going to take a year or two before we finally get to see the statistics on how these things have changed. But it's easy to predict what's going to happen because the same thing's going to happen there as happened in Portugal, where they did decrim like 15, 20 years ago now. It's been a tremendous success.
Trading involves financial risk and is not suitable for all investors. Past results do not guarantee future performance.
Stock market have you nervous with all the massive fluctuations? With the hope for a COVID vaccine on the rise, shifting political landscape, and the election at an end, it's virtually impossible to guess what will happen next. With Vantage Point, you don't have to. Text MONEY to 411-411 to find out how our technology can forecast market trends up to 3 days in advance with incredible accuracy. Text MONEY to 411-411 to get what you need to stay ahead of market trends and find explosive moves before they happen. Vantage Point's patented technology analyzes huge quantities of global data in seconds. Stop guessing. Start predicting trends 72 hours in advance. Text MONEY to 411-411 and experience Vantage Point for free. Text MONEY to 411-411 so you can protect and grow your capital now. Don't wait. Text MONEY to 411-411.
Go to VantagePointSoftware.com for terms, conditions, and privacy policy.
Attention business owners body slammed by overwhelming debt. If your business is in trouble, hassled by creditors, if you're frustrated, finally fed up with big business bailouts while your business has been left for dead, please listen close. There's a brand new fast-track bankruptcy. Some have even called it the biggest small business bailout in American history. Designed for individuals and their businesses. And look, almost no one knows about this yet. My attorney wasn't even aware of it. The truth is, beating the system has never been easy because it's rigged in a sense against the little guy. But here's the jaw-dropping news nobody's talking about. They've literally just changed the system so that you can beat it, but only if you understand how the new game has to be played. Find out if you qualify at pocketsoflight.com. This government-backed small business repair program is still legal, but may not be renewed after the election. Fight back fairly, fight back ethically at pocketsoflight.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live, dial in, toll-free number here, 855-450-FREE. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. We're talking about the $400 billion Bitcoin market cap. That's, for those that don't know, that means the total amount of Bitcoin in circulation, which is
about 18 million, I think.
Yeah, it's not actually showing here on the default view at Coin Market Cap. The current number of Bitcoin is 18.57 and change. So 18 million and change. Well, getting closer to 19, but not quite. 18.5 million Bitcoin in circulation. You multiply that times the price of one Bitcoin, which is now $21,600 plus per Bitcoin, and you get a market cap of over $400 billion, which means that Bitcoin, according to the rankings that I just had pulled up a moment ago, Bitcoin is currently at number 11.
And it's bigger than MasterCard.
Bigger than MasterCard, bigger than PayPal, bigger than Bank of America, bigger than Walt Disney, bigger than Procter & Gamble, bigger than J.P. Morgan, and that puts it at number, not quite bigger than Johnson & Johnson. So it puts it at number 11. So J.P. Morgan is number 11.
By the end of the show, though,
by the end of the show, yeah, it could have displaced Johnson & Johnson. It's got a little ways to go to beat Walmart, which Walmart's at almost 416 billion, Visa at 482 billion. So if Bitcoin goes up another 25%, it'll be bigger than Visa.
Another 25%.
That could be 2 days.
I know, but that is a pretty big increase.
Yeah, but it was 12% in the last 24 hours.
Okay.
So
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying.
Bitcoin can do that in 10 minutes. It can. It doesn't always, but there are times. So it's exciting times. You can join us here. The toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. Go to news.bitcoin.com and get the headlines about what's going on in the world of Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash.
Or just go there and buy some at this point.
Yeah.
Because I don't expect the price to hit 20,000 again. So if you're waiting on that, you're like, it'll go back down and I'll buy it. Then stop putting this crap off, man.
It could go back down, though. I mean, that's the thing.
I just said I don't expect it to.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen, but it seems like a relatively safe bet that over time it will go up. The day-to-day stuff, we don't know. Will it keep going up forever? Probably not. So the thing is, you never know at what point it's done, right? Like at what point will Bitcoin never go higher than whatever price it hits? You don't ever know.
I suspect that's going to be in the range of somewhere between
200, 300,000, a million.
I was thinking more like a million, something like that. That's going to be the point at which I'm like, all right, I think we're done.
Yeah.
I think I can sell now.
So 855-450-FREE, that's the toll-free number. Let's talk about a different sort of money, and that is to say fines against poor local business owners who are just trying to keep their business open so they can, feed their families, pay their rent or their mortgage, keep their kids, fed. That's what these business owners are trying to do, but the government gangsters are standing in the way, and the story here is from foxbusiness.com. It's about a Michigan mom who owns a cafe in Calumet, Michigan called Cafe Rosetta, and she is now being fined $1,000 per day for keeping her cafe open in violation of the so-called stay-at-home orders issued November 15th.
Now, I have to ask, how do these people expect her to feed her kids?
Well, that's her problem. Maybe she should go on welfare.
But she's a successful business owner.
Well, maybe she should go on welfare.
The whole issue I have with this isn't just that people were locked down. It was that people were locked down and the government didn't actually take care of them, which I'm not a fan of. But if the government's going to break both of your legs, it should at least have the decency to give you a crutch, right? If it's going to shut down
Here's
your business,
$1,200,
right? And that wasn't even a crutch though. That was more like a Band-Aid for the gaping wounds.
Yeah.
For the
right.
fact that your legs were cut off at your knee, they still need a crutch, man.
It's bad.
And they're not providing it. And this latest stimulus package they're talking about that we mentioned earlier, it provides like $600 per individual.
Well, they did give out the business, what do they call it, SBA loans or whatever this year.
Yeah, the Paycheck Protection Program or whatever.
Right, but all that did was require the business owner to pay 70% of it to their employees. So to basically pay their employees to not really have to work, essentially, because there weren't customers coming through the door, because the customers were staying home because they were afraid. For no real reason, but they were afraid, so they weren't going out and spending money. So essentially these business owners were being told, here's a bunch of money that you can only spend on your employees who you don't really need to be there because there's no customers coming in. So it helped the employees a little bit, but it didn't help the business owners stay open.
Would not the employees have been better off, though, if they just filed for unemployment and got that extra, what was it, $600 a week? What was the unemployment bonus?
Yeah, I think that was what it was.
So they probably would have been better off doing that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So was that whole payment protection program just a scheme so they had to pay out less unemployment?
I have no idea.
Because they didn't do the businesses any damn good.
They probably didn't think about it that far.
No, of course not, because they're the government. They don't think this crap through.
Right. Somebody in the government legislature was like, hey, you know what? We ought to make it so they have to pay 70% of this stuff to their business, their employees. Oh, yeah, it's a good idea. The employees will love that.
Yeah, because they'll sit at home doing nothing, getting paid, or they can just file for unemployment, sit at home doing nothing, get paid more, and not affect the business.
Amy Heiken is her name. She's the owner of Cafe Rosetta. Again, is refusing to pay. So not just receiving,
good for her,
but refusing to pay the fines. And that really warms my heart when we see business owners.
Well, she probably can't pay those fines.
Well, there is that, yeah.
I mean, she just spent 9 months effectively being shut down.
Still, I do like seeing it when the business owners refuse to pay. Because if you pay these goons, it just encourages them. You give the bully money, he knows you've got money. He's going to come back for more.
Excellent point.
So she's been fined for keeping her cafe open for indoor dining against state orders, and now she's facing legal challenges. Eric Killunen, a Michigan small business owner who founded the All Business is Essential campaign to keep Michigan businesses open and afloat during the pandemic, spoke on behalf of Heiken, saying, quote, Amy's just got this sweet disposition. She doesn't want to fight anybody. She doesn't want any of this. She was divorced 9 years ago from a rough situation. She's got 6 kids. She was on welfare at the time with nowhere to go. So this girl decides to pick herself up. Her brother decides to help her. They buy Cafe Rosetta. Now Amy has a place to focus her energy positively. She loves baking. She's the sweetest thing you've ever met, he said. Cafe Rosetta employs 30 people. And with snow on the ground...
So this is a successful cafe.
Yeah. Heiken can't afford to close indoor dining, she said. He added that she can't wear a mask in line with her doctor's orders due to a thyroid condition. Quote, so she stayed open and defied the mandate. Now she's getting harassed on a daily basis by her local health department, led by Tanya Rule, great name for a bureaucrat, and being fined...
Can we find Tanya Rule's health department's phone number?
You probably can. That would be wherever the hell this is. This is in Calumet, Michigan. That would be the health department in Calumet, Michigan.
How is Calumet spelled?
C-A-L-U-M-E-T. So Tanya Rule, again, fining this woman $1,000 a day for supporting a family of 6 and her 30 employees. Neither Ms. Rule, the environmental health director for the Western Upper Peninsula Health Department, there's the name of it for you there, Aria, Western Upper Peninsula Health Department.
I've got the number already.
Nor Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's office immediately responded to inquiries from Fox Business. Gee, that's a surprise. Government bureaucrats didn't have anything to say publicly about why they're attacking small business owners.
Do they ever? The Attorney General of New Hampshire sure doesn't.
Sometimes they do. They talk tough about, why these businesses need to obey because fear and corona, this and that. But no, they didn't say anything in this case. Do you want to give that number?
I absolutely do. It's 906-482-7382 because it would just be a tragedy if people out there called and left Tanya Rule just hundreds upon hundreds of voice messages about how screwed up this really is.
We'll have you give that number out again here in a sec.
Absolutely.
Locals have been trying to help support Hyken by visiting the cafe every day, including one customer who set up a fundraiser on a crowdfunding website, GiveSendGo.com. He added the fundraising campaign will help the lady pay her legal fees as she continues to fight the state. On December 7th, the governor of the state, Ms. Whitmer, extended a 3-week-long statewide COVID-19 stay-at-home order for another 12 days. Jesus. So it was only going to be 3 weeks, but now it's going to be another week and a half on top of that. And I'm sure it'll end then, right?
I sincerely doubt it.
Amid a spike in cases in the state, the restrictions initially announced on November 15th, they ban indoor dining and in-person learning until December 20th. The goal of the epidemic order issued by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services is to reduce the spread of COVID-19, according to a public information bureaucrat. Targeted and temporary closures that include restaurants have been part of successful strategies for containing COVID surges in Western Europe.
There is zero evidence to support that statement. There is zero evidence to support that these lockdown strategies are effectively containing COVID-19.
Even the World Health Organization admitted that.
Yeah. Didn't they say something like, please stop locking down or something?
Yeah.
Anyway, that phone number once again is 906-482-7382, and that's Tanya Rule at the Health Department.
And we got more coming up here. Hour number 3 is on the way. You can take control of the airwaves. Our number is 855-450, free like freedom. It's Free Talk Live. You got to stand up. Or else.
Maxwell, he was a runaway to rescue, great disposition. About 9 years ago, he was scratching a lot, and he started losing some hair. My vet, she said, he must be allergic to the chicken. Another vet said, it's the grain. Third vet, she said it's the weather, something in the air. And then somebody said, DINOVITE.com. I had been listening to the Dynavite ads, hearing about different stories of different people, and it just clicked. I got my first 90-day supply, and it took a grand total of 2 weeks. And the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Dynavite is nutrition.
And Maxwell loves it. Now he's close to 10. And the Dynavite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
Dynavite for life. Believe how happy your dog will be.
And he's a spectacular dog.
DINOVITE.com.
There are basically 2 types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Stamps.com brings the post office and UPS shipping right to your computer.
Go to Stamps.com to start a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale with promo code FOX. That's Stamps.com. Click on the microphone at the top of the page and type in FOX.
Ready to roll up their sleeves. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Vice President Mike Pence and his wife Karen will receive the vaccine for COVID-19 Friday, according to a statement from the White House. And President-elect Biden could get it as soon as next week, according to a transition official. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar says he's pleased with the speed in getting a vaccine out to the public.
I just want to say thank you to everyone on Operation Warp Speed. And I want to say thank you to President Trump for his leadership and commitment to this program.
Meanwhile, health officials in Alaska say a healthcare worker had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine within minutes of having the shot. She was treated and has recovered. From the mid-Atlantic to the Northeast, winter storm watches and warnings up as the first big snowstorm of the season is underway.
Really what we want you to do is really stay home if you don't need to go out. It's really critical in storms of this nature. Obviously, road conditions, weather conditions can change very quickly and lead to challenges.
Pennsylvania Emergency Management Director Randy Padfield, central Pennsylvania could see as much as 2 feet of snow. A Kenyan national indicted for conspiring to hijack an aircraft on behalf of the terror group Al-Shabaab.
The indictment alleges Cholo Abdi Abdullah was an Al-Shabaab operative who participated in a plot to hijack a commercial aircraft and crash it into a building in the U.S. According to the indictment, beginning in 2016, while Abdullah was obtaining pilot training at a flight school, he also conducted research into the means and methods to hijack a commercial airliner to conduct the planned attack, including security on commercial airliners and how to breach a cockpit door from the outside. Abdullah was transported from the Philippines to the U.S. yesterday.
Fox's John Decker in Washington. Wall Street, the Dow lost 44, the Nasdaq gained 63. America is listening to Fox News.
2020 has already reshaped how we work, and it's almost over. Businesses across the globe are challenged to be their most efficient, which means every hire is critical. Indeed is here to help. Indeed helps you find quality candidates quickly, so you can focus on hiring the person you need to keep your business going. Unlike other sites, Indeed gives you full control and payment flexibility over your hiring. You only pay for what you need, can pause your account at any time, and there are no long-term contracts. And now, Indeed's new way of matching you with candidates instantly delivers a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria that you can contact the moment you sponsor a job, making Indeed the only job site that can move as fast as you do. Right now, Indeed is offering a free $75 credit to boost your job post, which means more quality candidates will see it fast. Get started on Indeed.com/Fox. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply.
A Kansas mayor resigns over backlash from her support of a mask mandate.
Dodge City Mayor Joyce Horshaw, after saying she proudly voted last month to impose a mask mandate, that she's come under pressure, even threats over virus orders, apparently too much, announcing her immediate resignation.
Folks are have spoken up, and they very much do not want an order.
That's a board member in Boise, Idaho, where amid backlash over coronavirus mandates, the board last night voted against virus mandates there over concerns of enforcing an order on a population that doesn't want it. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Tyson Foods has fired 7 top managers at its largest pork plant after an independent investigation into allegations they bet on.
They started with Google Glass, and now the engineers behind Google have created a new body part to strap gadgets onto. They're calling it the flange, and the new synthetic skin appendage fits between the shoulder blades into a flat surface capable of holding a wide array of new gadgets for Google to hawk to consumers. While unveiling the innovation today, Google CEO Larry Page said, quote, "The possibilities for the number of completely pointless gadgets to strap, bind, and stick to your body are now endless." Early adopters are already raving about the synthetic body part.
It overheats and burns my skin pretty bad when I have it on, but I'm really getting to like it.
I'm actually thinking of getting a second one installed.
Critics are cautioning the tech world to not hail the flange as an achievement yet, since several users have reported problems with the device permanently grafting to their spinal column if worn overnight. Coming up next, Doritos unveils new e-Doritos that come in JPEG form whenever you're hungry.
This is the Onion News Network.
It's the story that's stunning the tech world. Despite his age, 6-year-old data entry prodigy Jeffrey Peters is already entertaining offers from dozens of major temp agencies. Experts say Jeffrey's abilities to sit still and perform mind-numbing tasks in Excel and Word for hours on end rank with a freelance worker 3 times his age. But Jeffrey's mom says that she knew he was special from early on.
I've always thought that Jeffrey was different from the other kids. He started wearing glasses for computer strain when he was just 3.5, and he already has some pretty significant tendinitis.
I've always wanted to work at Maverick Recruiting.
The data entry whiz is at the center of a bidding war between industry titans like Workforce Solutions and Metropolitan Staffing, both offering lavish perks like starting salaries of up to $15,000 and a cramped cubicle shared with only 2 other temps. Jeffrey's parents say that given the generous offers he's already received, he could be well on the way to affording a dingy rundown apartment of his own.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever is on your mind. Our number here, 855-450-FREE. That's 855-450-3733. You can also join us on our chat server. We've got a Matrix chat server, which means it's decentralized, self-hosted, federated, meaning that no corporate entity, no socialist media, as J.P. Sears is now calling them, the social medias, they can't hold an axe over our head, which means you got more free speech that you can do on our server than you can in pretty much any other place. So head over to chat.lrn.fm. You can read about that. That's chat.lrn.fm. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And Arya.
You want to talk about civil disobedience?
Absolutely.
Well, apparently thefederalist.com is now advocating for it. And you know, we're living in interesting times when, I mean, a site like The Federalist, which kind of sounds like a, I don't know, right-wing.
Well, they're sort of classical liberal there.
Are they? Oh, okay.
I thought they were.
Well, anyway.
I wouldn't say libertarian for sure, but I thought they were classical liberals.
Maybe so. I haven't spent that much time reading The Federalist. Just the name of it sort of sounds federal. But I guess they mean like states' rights, maybe, kind of federalist. I don't know.
I believe that's what they mean.
Yeah, it could be. But in this case, they are advocating for civil disobedience. The headline written by John Daniel Davidson is "It's time for mass civil disobedience against lawless lockdown orders." And indeed, other places in the world have been doing this. We saw footage recently from Vancouver, where there were hundreds of people in the streets there. In London, where there were probably thousands of people walking through the streets with no masks on, just as a protest event. And so Davidson says this: by now it should be obvious that elected state and local officials issuing COVID-19 lockdown and stay-at-home orders are just making things up as they go along. Too often their edicts aren't based on science or data, but on a grotesque understanding of their own authority and infallibility. In the face of a worsening pandemic, they want to be, or at least so they claim, they want to be seen as doing something, taking bold action to stop the spread of the virus. That is, so long as it doesn't hurt certain favored special interests. That's why Americans living under arbitrary and unconstitutional lockdown orders should simply ignore them, en masse, as an act of civil disobedience.
I agree entirely so far.
How else are ordinary people to push back against the capricious rules of politicians like Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti? On November 25th, the day before Thanksgiving, Garcetti and county health officials banned outdoor dining at bars and restaurants for 3 weeks. Because of the spread of the virus, they said it's just too dangerous, so we all have to do our part and make sacrifices. But then they gave
What sacrifice is he making?
The mayor, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, probably nothing.
It's time for us all to make sacrifices. Now, you go ahead and cut off your foot. I'm going to sit over here and enjoy my wealth.
Yeah. I don't know much about this Garcetti guy, but the governor of California was caught eating at a fancy restaurant after he had told everybody to stay home. He was having a group dinner at a $300 a plate restaurant. So, and then he apologized for it later on.
Is it too early to break out the tar and feathers?
I would say no.
Okay.
I mean, I don't support violence, but if other people want to do it.
Tar and feathering people isn't strictly violence. I mean,
it's really hot,
though. The tar doesn't have to be hot.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't know that until recently when I watched a movie about the witch hunts in Europe during the 16th to 19th centuries.
Can you pour tar if it's not hot?
Evidently.
Huh.
It was common practice, especially in the American colonies, to heat it first.
For it to be hot? Okay, yeah.
But it doesn't actually have to be hot.
Interesting. Okay. Well, now I'm even more in favor of it.
No, it doesn't really hurt them. It's just
right. It's just fun. Now it's just good fun. 855-450 free if you want to join us here. So they gave a carve-out in Los Angeles for certain kinds of outdoor dining like film and television crew catering sites. In Garcetti's town, the massive...
Oh, well, yeah, they had to get that tourism money.
A massive film crew eating outside is safe. But a small restaurant or bar with outdoor socially distanced seating is too dangerous to remain open. Got it? Then last week, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge James Chalfant called out the mayor and county health officials on this arbitrary exercise of power, ordering them to produce scientific evidence to justify the outdoor dining ban. Quote, "You have to do a risk-benefit analysis for public health. You don't just talk about the risk of spreading disease. You have to talk about the benefit of keeping restaurants open," the judge said. Exactly right. Chalfant is also requiring the county to provide data on hospital and ICU capacity to justify the claim that the healthcare system would be overwhelmed without the outdoor dining ban. County health officials are scheduled to appear in his courtroom Tuesday to give whatever evidence they were able to cobble together since last week. The lawsuit, brought by an attorney who also owns a downtown Los Angeles restaurant, captures the dynamic of pandemic governance in a microcosm. Health officials, based on nothing but their opinions about what might be safe or not, have put tens of thousands of people in America's second largest city out of work right before the holiday season. This pattern has played out all across the country this year. Elected officials, often Democratic mayors or governors, promulgate rules, curfews, capacity limits, and outright shutdowns that betray either animosity or indifference towards certain groups while protecting other favored groups.
The curfews are the most arbitrary and unscientific of all of these. I can't believe any of these cities have allowed curfews to be put in place.
Well, it's all about control. When you say cities have allowed, you mean the people of those cities have allowed them?
I do mean that, yes. Because there's no scientific rationale whatsoever behind, oh, well, you can hang out until 10 p.m., but then you have to go home because after that you might catch COVID.
No, see, the reason, okay, so I'm gonna play the bureaucrats here and say, no, Ari, you don't understand. The reason we put these curfews into place is because after 10 p.m., people are more likely to be drunk, and therefore they're more likely to ignore social distancing. They're more likely to want to talk to other human beings, maybe get close and possibly touch another person, and we can't be having that.
But there are plenty of people who only go to the bar after 10 o'clock, myself among them. If I'm at a bar, it's after 10 o'clock p.m. So you want to make me go out of my way to be there when the bar is at higher capacity and thereby increase my chances of catching a disease that one of them happens to have because you limited the amount of time that people can be there, which cramped more people into that space.
Yeah, I can't argue. Even playing devil's advocate, I can't argue against
That's
that
what
one.
happens when you limit hours and people still want to go there. They just all go there at the same time.
Right. In fact, what we've seen in regards to that is not just when they limit hours, but when they're putting these restrictions into place of you got to lock down for 3 weeks or whatever. Well, everybody goes shopping the day before or the day or two before. They all line up in lines outside of these places which have the things they want to get so they can get the things they want while they're sitting in, their houses for the next 3 weeks. So it rushes everybody into the same thing. And people said that about the stores like Walmart and CVS that, remember early on in the so-called pandemic, they restricted hours, like 24-hour Walmarts were no longer 24 and they were just like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Well, that just means more people have to shop in the same 12-hour window, which otherwise would have shopped over a 24-hour window. So all of these policies have actually driven more people together.
Because it seems pretty clear that the plan behind all of this has been to spread COVID-19.
Perhaps so. Because certainly the mask mandates are making things worse, as you have pointed out a number of times.
They absolutely have to be. I can't imagine. I have no scientific explanation behind that, but just the logic alone is enough to convince me.
Of people constantly touching other things, touching the mask and then touching everything else.
Yeah, because it's constant.
Yep. That's how we got a recent Supreme Court ruling. They say that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, and by the way, he's in the news again for banning the Confederate flag. We can tell you about that coming up here if we get a chance. But his order singling out churches and other houses of worship for special restrictions was unconstitutional, and a ruling that was affirmed a week later when the Supreme Court sent a similar case back to a federal district court in California for reconsideration in light of its ruling in the New York case. At issue in both cases with the arbitrariness of the restrictions placed on worship. as Justice...
What if your religion is going to the bar?
Indeed.
I don't have such a religion, but I mean, why does religion get special immunity in these cases? Oh, well, it's a violation of people's religious rights. What about just their rights?
Well, it is in the First Amendment, so there is sort of a special... Religion sort of has a special place in the United States.
I'm just arguing that it shouldn't.
I get you. I mean, it's your right to seek liberty, life, and happiness. Liberty and freedom, it should be inalienable. And people have allowed themselves to be alienated from those things by these government rules. I mean, because ultimately, they say you get the government you deserve. And, I mean, you and I don't deserve it because we get it.
And I don't consent to it.
Yeah. The majority of the American populace appears to want to be told what to do. So they're getting all kinds of rules to follow. And as long as they follow them, they're going to get more of them. 855-450-FREE. The Federalist is saying it's time for civil disobedience.
Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find a cornucopia of information, neatly organized for your needs. If you're a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com where you can get the latest headlines. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website, all put together by the best minds in the business to teach you about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com.
Maxwell, he was scratching and losing some hair. My vet, she says, oh, he must be allergic to chicken. Another vet said, eat the grain. Third vet said, it's the weather. Then somebody said,
DINOVITE.com.
It took 2 weeks, and the dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out. The Dinovite is a big part of Maxwell's diet.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Freedom! Freedom is the call of the untamed Scotsman and all others that want to feel the wind under their kilts.
At Free Talk Live, we love the breezy, swinging feeling that only a kilt from Sport Kilt can give.
We teamed up with Sport Kilt to let you experience their form of freedom at a discount. Go to kilts.freetalklive.com and see a picture of Richie and me in our kilts.
And then head over to sportkilt.com. Get some stylish freedom for yourself and use code FTL for a 10% discount. Sportkilt.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions, or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Excuse me, is this where I get a license to start a new business?
I wouldn't be hasty. You have to get a license to go out of business, too, you know.
Oh, well, look, I've invented this little anti-gravity machine, see?
Oh, is that why you're walking 2 inches above the floor?
Oh, yes, it's very comfortable. It saves on shoe leather.
Yeah, well, you have to fill out these forms and report to the Human Services Department of Manpower Orientation and register with the Fair Employment Practice Commission, the Wage and Hour Division of the Employment Standards Administration, the State Sales and Income Tax Division, the Internal Revenue Service, and the Social Security Administration of the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, and, of course, OSHA.
OSHA? I thought that was a little town in Wisconsin.
You'll find out. Say, floating around like that could be dangerous. Have you checked with the Consumer Product Safety Commission?
Well, not yet.
Come to think of it, you actually are flying, aren't you? Look, you need to go over to the Federal Aviation Administration and the Transportation...
It's very hard to get anything done these days if you're in business, but free enterprise built this country. Think what could happen if we don't keep it free. A public service of this station and the Center for the Defense of Free Enterprise, Bellevue, Washington.
We just can't have people floating about unregulated, you know.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
It's Free Talk Live. You may dial in here, the toll-free number, 855-450-FREE, like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. Tonight, you've got Ian.
And Arya.
We're talking about civil disobedience being advocated by thefederalist.com, where they're saying that they're looking for mass civil disobedience, not just a few people, not a Derek J's victimless crime spree where it's one guy or a handful of people going out and being civilly disobedient, but a bunch of people. Problem, however, is I don't know if we have massive numbers of people who disagree with these lockdowns.
I think most people do tend to agree with them, but that's only until they start actually starving.
Well, and we're nowhere near that happening here. I mean, look, if you look down to Venezuela, for instance, where they actually are losing weight on a year-to-year basis, when you look at the average Venezuelan and what their weight is in the year 2016 versus 2017 versus 2018, you see...
So what you're saying is if you like skinny girls, hook up with a Venezuelan?
Yes, they might be a little malnourished, but they probably are not fat. As many as might have used to have been. And that's because they're missing a meal basically every single day. And whatever meals they do have are pretty limited on, the types of food that they can eat. Now, Venezuela is just in dismal economic shape. I mean, the water...
it's bad.
I mean, it is bad. The
regular blackouts.
Yeah, but rolling blackouts. Water systems are not treating water, so you've got to boil any kind of water that you can actually find. They've got people going down to like streams with sewage in them to try to get water. I mean, it's really, really bad. And they haven't overthrown that government.
Well, because Maduro will shoot them all in the heads and they don't have guns.
Okay, so they don't legally have guns. That's true, but they're still guns.
Okay.
And unfortunately, some of the people who have the guns are biker gangs and other criminals that Maduro has armed specifically because he thinks, and he's right, by buying guns for the bad guys, that the bad guys will be on his side. So far...
That's the way the state has always worked.
Yeah, except this is in addition to the bad guys and the police. So he's got his police and his military, and he's got what they call the colectivos, which are criminal gangs that are not the government.
Why are they called collectivos?
You'll have to look that up. That's just the name that they use for them.
Okay.
Collectives, I guess. But they're
I assumed it was like collectors or something.
No, they're criminal gangs that are not governmental gangs, but still being sort of funded by the government. Anyway, the point being, we got a long way to go here in the United States before people start to starve. So that's not going to be the case anytime soon unless things get real bad real fast, which could happen. But Venezuela has been on a tremendous economic downturn over the last decade. And
how many zeros have they knocked off their currency at this point? But see, Americans are
8 at least.
Americans are fat and wealthy and spoiled.
Yes, they are.
What will they do when they can't be that way anymore? What will Americans do when you tell them, no, you can't afford that Big Mac any longer?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Will they wither away and die like the Venezuelans are doing? Or like, no, damn it, we're fighting for our Big Macs.
I don't know. I have no predictions to make here. I mean, I was hoping that we would see more resistance than we currently are out of, at least in New Hampshire, and I'm pretty honestly disappointed in the live free or die state, in how few people have done things like come out to the governor's house and protest. and doing civil disobedience in public or whatever. And you're right. I mean, people just aren't uncomfortable enough in the United States. And I mean, I don't want to see it get a lot worse here, but it may have to get a lot worse before it starts to get better. And I think the best thing we can do to avoid that is to encourage liberty-minded people to make the move here to New Hampshire and join the New Hampshire Freedom Migration, because there's no better place to be than around other like-minded people. Maybe we can accomplish some things together. I think we can. The Free State Project, for instance, has been incredibly successful in getting people to move here. Now, you and I are both not members of the Free State Project, so there are people moving here without the Free State Project as well. But, kudos to them. There were, according to their recent email update, 30 Free Staters won election to the state house this year, which is That's record. Impressive. That is a record number of people. Most places don't have a single Libertarian state rep. We've got 30 of them. Now, they're not in as Libertarian Party members.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Right. It's still pretty impressive. So let's go to your calls and thoughts. We can talk more about mass civil disobedience against these various different lockdowns and restrictions. But we first have Drake on the line in Montana, listening to KXTL in, I think, are you in the Butte area, Drake?
Yeah, that's correct.
Welcome.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. No, I just was scrolling through the radio, heard you guys. There was a couple points that I thought were important to make. The Declaration of Independence, you talked to...
Hello?
You're breaking up.
Hey, oh, sorry.
No, we got you now. You were saying the Declaration of Independence. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. The three things are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's what it was. Thanks.
Not happiness in itself. Yeah. And that's an important distinction, I think. And the other point that your comrade was, excuse the language, I'm not a communist. I love liberty. Was made about religion. It's important to recognize, I think there's a professor from Columbia named McWhorter that talked about anti-racism being an actual religion. And so I think it's important for us to not constrict the definition of religion to the traditional, ideas of Christianity or Judaism or Islam, but the tenets of any religion can be, what you worship is a religion. And there's certain, I think he talked about Galileo's definition of religion, and I think we need to think of it that way, because then anti-religionists are a little bit sometimes put in check.
Anti-religionists. I mean, do you mean like an atheist, or are there people who are
not necessarily? Well, yeah, possibly atheists, but atheists. I think it's important to understand that atheism itself can be defined as a religion.
Oh God, dude, no, it can't. Do you know what a religion is? Give me a definition of religion that includes the lack of a belief in a religion. Because that's what atheism is. Theism is the belief in a higher power. Atheism is the lack of a belief in a higher power.
That's not true at all.
That is literally what the terms mean, dude.
Look up Galileo's definition of religion.
I don't live in 1540 Italy. I live in the 21st century where theism means one thing, and the Latin prefix means lack of or without. That's why I say anarchists are statists.
You're equating religion with theism. It's not the same.
No, I'm rejecting a belief in a higher power. That makes me an atheist, someone who lacks theism.
That's theism.
No,
religion is not theism.
I think he's right about this, Arya. What he's trying to point out to you is that atheism is meaning the prefix there, without, right? And theist is belief in a god, right? So atheism is without belief in a god or a higher power, but that's different than somebody who might be spiritual, for instance.
The point I'm addressing is his claim that atheism is a religion.
Well, now atheism, that's an interesting thing, and if you want, Drake, hang on, we can continue the discussion here, because atheism by itself is not a religion, but many of the atheists are very religious without realizing it. And I think you even pointed this out in your interviews while you were being interviewed for running for office, that atheists believe in the state in a very religious way. More coming up.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Valley, Servant Daughter by D.J. Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up whatever you want here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE like freedom. That's 855-450-3733. You don't have to agree with us. In fact, that makes things more interesting when that is the case. Unfortunately, our last caller dropped off the line. Maybe it was a technical difficulty. You know, he did sound like he had a bad cell phone signal at one point, so he might call back. We'll see. If you ever do end up accidentally disconnected like that from some technical reason, you're always welcome to try back. Generally, though, we do have a 1 call per night rule, just so you know. We don't have a whole lot of rules on Free Talk Live, but that is one of them.
It doesn't include technological mishaps, though.
That's the exception, correct. So something else that is exceptional, that is Fork Fest. It's coming up 2021. We're about 6 months away from the next Fork Fest, which means you better start planning for this thing because it'll be here before you know it. And by planning, I mean not just marking down the dates and calling Rogers Campground, but you should do that. June 28th through July 4th, 2021, Rogers Campground. You can go to their website, which is rogerscampground.com, or just give them a call and reserve your campsite or RV site or motel room because they got all three of those options. So you will be comfortable there at Rogers Campground. And if you really don't want any of those things, there's like a fancy hotel not far down the road. So you can do whatever you want as far as coming to the event. And it is a decentralized libertarian camping festival. And decentralized means that there's no board of directors who's in charge of this festival. There's no tickets. There's no organizer. There's each individual that attends kind of does their own thing. So if you want to bring something to the table, so to speak, you've got some sort of talent that you want to express. Aria, you played in a band this last year at this past summer's Fork Fest, which was the first time there's ever been live music at Fork Fest. It was awesome. So there was also like another person who brought a poker table, and there was another guy with a party tent, and the poker table ended up in the party tent, and it was there every night with people, and there were 2 party tents and actually 3 depending on how you count them, but it was a good time. So
I imagine there were more than 3.
Yeah, check out forkfest.party to learn more about the event. And again, mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th. Now, our last caller, Aria, you and he were kind of bickering over the definitions of atheism and whether or not an atheist was religious or not. And he was saying that the atheist was religious.
Yeah, it's a common argument from theists. It's an attempt to say, oh, well, no, you're just as bad as we are because you believe there is not a higher power. So you have a belief, too. It's part of that same whole twisting of the argument to try to get people to say things that they didn't say or to make them look as ridiculous as the theists themselves look often when they make these arguments.
Yeah, to not have a belief isn't really a belief. Yeah. So I get where you're coming from on what you were saying back to him. So he was coming at it from the wrong perspective. The atheist does have, in a lot of cases, a religion. Unless the atheist is also an anarchist or a voluntarist or libertarian or something like that, which those do exist. But there's a lot of atheists out there that are completely blind to their religious belief in the state.
Yes, their higher power is the state.
Correct.
So they do, in fact, believe in a higher power. They just don't realize it.
Yes. Now, that particular higher power is also a completely imaginary one.
It is.
It is based on humans who have a similar delusion about that higher power, which really doesn't make it that different, honestly.
It's sounding identical so far.
Right, from other forms of religion. And when you really start to look at it, it is very much like other forms of religion. In fact, the more you dig in to the state,
with its religious garbs, its religious drapings, its idols, its imagery, its
all of
ceremony, prayers, chants, hymns.
Right. Look at the courthouses. It's the most obvious example where they have almost all of those things. They've got sort of a chant when it's not really a chant, but it's sort of similar in that it's people speaking in unison, right? When the judge walks into the room, the man, one of his acolytes,
says, in his robe.
The man in his robe, right, walks in, and before the man walks in, an acolyte says, "All rise," and then everybody stands up, and then the man in the robe comes in, and he says, "Please be seated." And everyone sits down in pews, nonetheless. I mean, they literally are sitting in pews. The only thing they don't have is those little areas where, like, the little back holders on the backs of the pews where the Bibles sit in them. They don't have those, but otherwise they're pews.
No, but they do have their hymns and their pledges of allegiance and their "My country, 'tis of these" and all of that. They have their hymns.
Those are totally hymns. Yep.
So, I mean, it's fully a religion. So those atheists, I can't consider them atheists.
Well, I see what you're saying there, and that's an interesting
because they
viewpoint.
believe in a higher power. And it's no more real, no more tangible than...
But the atheist wouldn't admit that it's a god.
That's because they're delusional.
That's true.
They can't face the reality of what the state really is.
That's correct.
Because they're so brainwashed by it. Just like they couldn't face the reality of what Christianity is ultimately offering people when they were little Christian children because they were so wrapped up in the brainwash.
And in order to face that reality, they would have to face down the cognitive dissonance that would push back against them from realizing that, oh my God, I have been, or I guess they shouldn't say that, right? Because they're atheists. They would say,
I say, oh my God.
Oh my goodness, I've been, fooled by this state religion. I was against, as an atheist, I'm not. I used to be at one time, but as an atheist, I was all against the daddy God in the sky.
Right.
But those atheists, they can see that God clearly, and they can reject that God clearly for all of its hypocrisy and, whatever other reasons. But
they don't see the very same hypocrisy coming from the state. The "thou shalt not kill," but I'm going to kill these 58,000 Syrians over here.
Right.
And the state does exactly the same thing. Murder is illegal, but we're going to send out a police force that literally murders people.
And the state is killing way more than the religions do today. The other religions,
sure.
Yeah. And so
comparing them against each other, the state is probably the single most destructive religion in human history.
Yeah.
I know some of them have gotten pretty bad at some points, but the state, it did World War II.
Yeah.
I mean,
and since
it's going to be hard to beat that.
Right. I mean, definitely some religions in the past had a lot of blood on their hands, but the state has the one with the staying power, right? Like it continues in different forms. It continues. The state, this delusion, this mass delusion, it results in so much destruction.
Well, all religions are doing that if you watch them closely enough. Christianity used to be fire and brimstone. It used to be much more like the Southern Baptist tradition. You had Martin Luther openly saying things like, reason is a toxic, obnoxious thing. You should reject reason. Wow. He went into extensive detail, and now people are like, no. Christians are like, no, we need to embrace the scientific method. We need to embrace science. So the other religions, they're evolving just as fast to make themselves not become obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Bible is...
Some are becoming obsolete, though.
The Bible is pretty explicitly anti-LGBT, but you have churches now actually trying to make the argument that, oh, no, it doesn't really say that you can't be gay, except it does, explicitly. So
they're probably depends on the translation.
Which is just an evolution, right?
Right.
That's not what the translation meant 300 years ago, but today that's how we're translating it.
So our toll-free number, if you want to join the discussion here, it's 855-450-FREE. But another aspect of the state religion that has come really obvious this year is the religion in sort of combining the state religion with a religion or rather religious belief in medicine. Or in
without a doubt,
certain types of medicine or in certain practitioners of medicine, specifically the state-anointed or the state-approved practitioners in that.
Because there are doctors out there who are reputing the common narrative regarding COVID-19. And
absolutely.
They're just written off as quacks. That person, they may be a doctor just like Dr. Fauci, but they don't really know what they're talking about.
Right.
Because they're saying something I don't agree with.
If they were a good doctor, they'd work for the government. Huh? So what we've seen this year is a new sort of religion in the state, and that is this blind obedience and belief in whatever the state says has gotten so bad. We've talked about it constantly over the last
Don't touch your mask,
but
months. Pull your mask down between bites. Come on, people. They're seeing how stupid you really are. Except that's not right. They're seeing how blindly you will really follow.
And here, the religious rights or the religious... I forget the word I was looking for, but they put the masks on constantly, right? Like, so it's like this sort of ritual. It's a ritual that they're constantly going through. Like when people walk into a place, they put their mask on. It's like, oh, the mask will protect me, or at the very least, it'll protect them from being harassed. 855-450-FREE, and it looks very ritualistic. And I saw something else I wanted to share on this point. Coming up, it's Free Talk Live.
Attention business owners body slammed by overwhelming debt. If your business is in trouble, hassled by creditors, if you're frustrated, finally fed up with big business bailouts while your business has been left for dead, please listen close. There's a brand new fast-track bankruptcy. Some have even called it the biggest small business bailout in American history. Designed for individuals and their businesses. And look, almost no one knows about this yet. My attorney wasn't even aware of it. The truth is, beating the system has never been easy because it's rigged in a sense against the little guy. But here's the jaw-dropping news nobody's talking about. They've literally just changed the system so that you can beat it, but only if you understand how the new game has to be played. Find out if you qualify at pocketsoflight.com. This government-backed small business repair program is still legal, but may not be renewed after the election. Fight back fairly, fight back ethically at pocketsoflight.com.
Trading involves financial risk and is not suitable for all investors. Past results do not guarantee future performance.
Stock market have you nervous with all the massive fluctuations? With the hope for a COVID vaccine on the rise, shifting political landscape, and the election at an end, it's virtually impossible to guess what will happen next. With Vantage Point, you don't have to. Text MONEY to 411-411 to find out how our technology can forecast market trends up to 3 days in advance with incredible accuracy. Text MONEY to 411-411 to get what you need to stay ahead of market trends and find explosive moves before they happen. Vantage Point's patented technology analyzes huge quantities of global data in seconds. Stop guessing. Start predicting trends 72 hours in advance. Text MONEY to 411-411 and experience Vantage Point for free. Text MONEY to 411-411 so you can protect and grow your capital now. Don't wait. Text MONEY to 411-411.
Go to VantagePointSoftware.com for terms, conditions, and privacy policy.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
It's Free Talk Live. We got a few moments remaining here. Enough time for you if you want to join us here. Our toll-free number is 855-450-FREE. We're talking about the religion of the state and how it really does track along with classic religions. And in fact, they even use some of the exact same trappings, such as robes, pews, hymns, chants. Of course, the Pledge of Allegiance is a good example of a chant, people speaking in unison. Lots of indoctrination. Of course, you got to have, if you're going to have a religion, you got to have indoctrination. You got to send the kids to Sunday school and Bible vacation,
or just to
Bible school.
If you're the state.
Well, that's the thing, right? The state gets them for 13 years at least, and that doesn't include college. So we shouldn't be surprised when people come out obedient serfs who will do almost anything that they're told. Actually, to come back to the story we were discussing, because we were actually in the middle of a piece by, let's see, what was it? The Federalist on mass civil disobedience. I want to continue that, but I did want to say one other thing about this sort of state religion situation, and specifically how it has to do with the obedience surrounding the various different COVID rules and such. I was looking at a photograph of one of the very first doses of the vaccine that was given out, right? Like, 'cause this is the big news this week in COVID news is, there's a vaccine. Look at all these brave workers who are getting their vaccine. And there's a photograph, total photo op thing where they've got like one of those backgrounds that you're sitting in front of, what they call a step and repeat, Aria, for listeners that aren't watching us on the cam at freetalklive.com. There's what they call a step and repeat in the business, where it's, if you're a publicity business, you want to have one of these things. It's got your logo on the back, and it's sort of organized in a diagonal manner where one logo is sort of repeated over the background, and it's called a step and repeat. So this has one of those, the Kaiser Permanente, which is some sort of healthcare company or hospital or something. And so there's a woman sitting in front of the step and repeat. She's a nurse, obviously, from the way she's dressed, and there's another nurse standing beside her. Everybody's got masks on, and the nurse has a face shield on top of her mask, so she's both face shielded and masked. And the incident is the initial giving out of this vaccine in California. And who's standing 6 feet, actually it looks like a little less than 6 feet away? Gavin Newsom. And that is the governor of California. And when I first saw this photo, I didn't realize what I was looking at. I just saw the photo on the internet, wherever it was I was, and I didn't realize who was standing in the photo. And I thought, oh, that looks like a priest.
Really?
Yeah, because he's sort of dressed in all black with like the white collar, just sort of at a glance. I thought,
he does look like one of your televangelist preachers with his little suit. Not like a Catholic priest, sort of priest, which is what I expected. But he does look like a Joel Osteen type.
Yeah, I just whatever it was about this photograph. Again, I hadn't seen the caption. I didn't know what I was looking at. I mean, it was obvious that somebody was getting a shot, right? Like, so I figured it was a vaccine photo, but I didn't know it was Gavin Newsom. I couldn't tell at a glance. It's just a guy with a mask on. I'm like, oh, they brought a priest in for this.
It should be weird.
But that's what it is.
They did bring a priest in.
He is the high priest of the state of California, and the high priest of the state of California has anointed this, this particular location where the vaccine is being administered for the first time. The high priest has come to visit today. He's come to applaud our efforts. And it was just, I don't know, I just felt like I'd share that because that's actually what this is.
That's a good point.
The government is a religion. So going back to the story here from thefederalist.com about why people should do mass civil disobedience, the author here points out that Justice Neil Gorsuch noted in the New York case, quote, "It's past time, to make plain that while the pandemic poses many grave challenges, there's no world in which the Constitution tolerates color-coded executive edicts that reopen liquor stores and bike shops but shutter churches, synagogues, and mosques," unquote. So even though you have Supreme Court justices making statements like that, which usually you get terrible statism from the Supreme Court, but in this case, that's a decent statement. It hasn't done anything.
It didn't increase the level of harm, at least.
Well, it says there's no world in which the Constitution tolerates all these executive orders, is what he said.
Well,
he's saying these executive orders are unconstitutional.
In the context of this was strictly about the churches and how the governor of New York had shut down churches while allowing liquor stores to remain open. The issue was that he shut down churches and left liquor stores open, not that he shut down churches and liquor stores.
That apparently was the issue. Yeah. He was talking about the arbitrariness of it and how unconstitutional it was. Anyway, the fact that he said that didn't mean anything because it hasn't stopped anything from happening. So. No. It shouldn't take an appeal to the First Amendment's protection of the free exercise of religion to stay the hand of would-be municipal and county tyrants across the country. While perhaps laughably cartoonish in its bald-faced cronyism and sheer cruelty, the outdoor dining ban in Los Angeles, and by the way, a lot of other places, is nothing to take lightly. It's taking its terrible toll on real people, most of them people who can't go weeks or months without working, like most people.
Yeah, didn't we talk about this back in July or something? The average American lives paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
How do they expect people to survive?
And carries debt. Not just lives paycheck to paycheck, but also carries debt. Last week, a viral video of distraught LA restaurant owner brought home not just the arbitrariness and unfairness of the outdoor dining ban, but the cost of livelihoods and jobs destroyed. The woman was Angela Marsden, the owner of the Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill in Sherman Oaks, a Los Angeles neighborhood. Marsden issued a tearful plea for help and a call to protest after her restaurant's outdoor dining area, which she had spent tens of thousands of dollars carefully adapting to comply with county pandemic rules, was shut down, along with every other outdoor dining area in the city. Did you see this video?
I did not, but that's horrifying.
Her video went viral because not 50 feet away from her restaurant was a much larger outdoor dining area that was allowed to stay open because it was for a comedy television show on NBC. The entertainment industry, you see, has been deemed essential by California Governor Gavin Newsom, which means that actors and film crews are exempt from the stay-at-home order issued last month, which applies to nearly the entire state. So this woman was told she can't have outdoor dining at her restaurant, walks outside of her restaurant, and shows on this video this huge tent that was set up literally in her parking lot, because that happens to be nearby where they were shooting for this movie or this TV show, and is like, hey, this isn't fair. Now, it's not like she cares about liberty or anything like that. She just cares about her own personal freedom.
Which is fine.
But the problem is, this lady obeyed. This lady obeyed all of the diktats that had gone up, and that's why she was so frustrated. She's crying in the video, and it's pathetic to watch it, because you feel bad that she got hurt, but at the same time, she kind of did this to herself by being such an obedient serf in the first place. So she's just one obedient serf who's crying because the other serfs got better treatment than her, is ultimately what it is. So it's really a sad video. Marsden later said in a Fox News interview that people in her city are suffering from the pandemic restrictions and that small business owners and employees are, quote, going to die, unquote, from poverty, depression, and suicide. And that much is true. It's hard to watch Marsden point out the hypocrisy and unfairness of the outdoor dining ban without feeling a kind of rage. A terrible injustice is being perpetrated against ordinary working people by elected officials who believe they can shutter entire industries and destroy people's livelihoods with the stroke of a pen. And by all evidence, they can, because people won't do anything about it. These often are the same leaders who don't follow their own pandemic rules and guidelines, who believe that lockdowns and curfews and restrictions are for poor people and the working class, not elites like them. Remember the Austin mayor got caught telling people to stay home while he was vacationing in Cabo, Mexico?
I remember Dr. Fauci telling people to wear a mask when he was photographed at a stadium not wearing a mask.
Yep. These are the same so-called leaders who tacitly and openly approve of massive Black Lives Matter protests over the summer and fall, and in some cases participating themselves in violation of the CDC guidelines about gathering sizes. Such protests were okay in their view because they agreed with the politics at issue, but we all know what would happen if crowds gathered to protest, say, draconian lockdown orders. In fact, we saw what would happen this weekend when the people were threatened at the governor's house here in New Hampshire.
People were threatened?
Yep, with arrest for disorderly conduct, for doing chants and speaking over a loudspeaker. Fortunately for us, he writes, because we're Americans and we live in a free country, a place, I can even write that, a place governed by laws and not by men, we have a constructive way to express our rage and outrage.
That's statism, written by law. Yeah. We're ruled by laws, not by man. Man wrote the laws, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the religion.
He says we can simply stop obeying these lawless edicts. We can safely open our businesses and places of worship, and in doing so, dare the tiny despots in the local health department or the mayor's office to stop us. If enough of us take a stand, as a free people should do, the Garcettis, Newsoms, and Cuomos of the world will back down. And if they don't, they can face mass protests, public outrage, and eventually the rebuke of the Supreme Court. If there were ever a time for mass civil disobedience, it is now. We'll see you tomorrow night online in the meantime at freetalklive.com.
Mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
Our cat Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have two cats, Sweet Pea and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you want to do what's best for them to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynovite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynovite for cats was coming out because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cats to Dynovite, I took the advice from Dynovite and put their food on top of just a scoop. in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dinovite for life. You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock is next after the news on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Ready to roll up their sleeves. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. Vice President Mike Pence and his wife Karen will receive the vaccine for COVID-19 Friday, according to a statement from the White House. And President-elect Biden could get it as soon as next week, according to a transition official. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar says he's pleased with the speed in getting a vaccine out to the public.
I just want to say thank you to everyone on Operation Warp Speed. And I want to say thank you to President Trump for his leadership and commitment to this program.
Meanwhile, health officials in Alaska say a healthcare worker had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine within minutes of having the shot. She was treated and has recovered. From the mid-Atlantic to the Northeast, winter storm watches and warnings up as the first big snowstorm of the season is underway.
Really what we want you to do is really stay home if you don't need to go out. It's really critical in storms of this nature. Obviously, road conditions, weather conditions can change very quickly and lead to challenges.
Pennsylvania Emergency Management Director Randy Padfield, central Pennsylvania could see as much as 2 feet of snow. A Kenyan national indicted for conspiring to hijack an aircraft on behalf of the terror group Al-Shabaab.
The indictment alleges Cholo Abdi Abdullah was an Al-Shabaab operative who participated in a plot to hijack a commercial aircraft and crash it into a building in the U.S. According to the indictment, beginning in 2016, while Abdullah was obtaining pilot training at a flight school, he also conducted research into the means and methods to hijack a commercial airliner to conduct the planned attack, including security on commercial airliners and how to breach a cockpit door from the outside. Abdullah was transported from the Philippines to the U.S. yesterday.
Fox's John Decker in Washington. Wall Street, the Dow lost 44, the Nasdaq gained 63. America is listening to Fox News.
Does your business have trouble managing inventory, projects, or even getting paid on time? Don't let spreadsheets and QuickBooks hold you back. If you want to get your business to a better place, take action now and make the move to NetSuite. Stop paying for multiple systems that don't give you the information you need when you need it. Ditch the spreadsheets and all the old software you've outgrown. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Everything you need, all in one place, instantaneously. Whether you're doing $1 million or hundreds of millions in revenue, save time and money with NetSuite.
Join the over 22,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Let NetSuite show you how they'll benefit your business with a free product tour at netsuite.com/Fox. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/Fox.
The trial of 14 accused accomplices to a terrorist attack in Paris is over.
These were the 2015 attacks on the Charlie Hebdo newspaper and a Jewish supermarket. 17 people, including a policewoman, were killed in addition to 3 attackers. All 14 accomplices on trial were found guilty of involvement to one degree or another. The main defendant of the 11 actually in court is sentenced to 30 years, found guilty of complicity in a terrorist crime. That same 30-year sentence goes to the widow of one of the attackers, but she'd fled to Syria, and it's unknown for sure if she or the other two convicted in absentia are still alive. Some of the defendants were convicted of lesser, non-terrorist related crimes. Chris Foster, Fox News.
The Fed says it'll keep a key interest rate near zero, but Chair Jerome Powell says he sees a brighter economy next year, adding the Fed will keep buying government bonds until the economy makes what he calls substantial progress. The president-elect with another cabinet pick.
President-elect Joe Biden formally introducing former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg as his.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Researchers were able to successfully teach a father how to communicate his emotions with rudimentary hand gestures. The stunning development happened after Stanford researchers spent 9 months trying to train 42-year-old Pittsburgh father Ron Myers to express simple sentiments like pride and love in a way few thought possible. To conduct the study, researchers used large, simplistic diagrams depicting hand gestures a dad might use to show emotion in a way Ron could easily comprehend.
We would often leave Band of Brothers or 30 for 30 reruns on to help him stay comfortable.
When Ron was able to successfully identify an emotion, he was given rewards to reinforce good behavior, including buffalo wings or a moment to read a page of a Tom Clancy novel. Despite Ron's breakthrough, researchers say he still has a way to go before achieving full emotional maturity, as after several months of work with Ron, he still retreats to the corner of the lab to look up drywalling techniques on the internet whenever his real family drops by to see him.
This is the Onion News Network. And now, from the studios of Freedom Speaks, Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say, we have time, a difficult time ahead of us. We are to be prepared for it. We must first shed our fear of it. Stand here without I remember that I am here, not remember that I am here, that lies before me, that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that